Story 1. Ex-wife left me for my best friend, and he grabbed me by the neck when I confronted her. So I did this. My 47M ex-wife, 48F, left me a year and a half ago for a guy who was married to her high school best friend. Some friend she turned out to be, right? We had been married 20 years and had what I thought were 2 children together. I recently found out that my 6-year-old daughter isn't mine. She's his. She knew this from day 1 of being pregnant and kept it from me, and it's my name on the birth certificate, and I do intend to fight for custody, as this has been my daughter, and the certificate is a legally binding document. She might not be blood, but that is my daughter. Clearly, this affair has been going on for some time. Finding out was a kick in the teeth. When I asked her if it's him or me, she said it's him. Why? Because he can get it right back up after segs and go again. That's the only reason, segs. Forget the fact that I worked 2 jobs to put her through school and continued to do so she could stay home and raise our kids and cheat on me. I gave up pursuing my dreams and music career for her so that she could pursue hers and have a family. They have been the number 1 thing in my life. My ex has always been a cold, old woman. She's bipolar, and life wasn't always easy. Her outbursts and physical and emotional abuse were so crushing, but I endured it because I thought she couldn't help it. Turns out that wasn't entirely true. She admitted to friends that she often punched me because she felt like it or wasn't getting her way. My kids had witnessed on several occasions her striking and verbally abusing me, and each time I took it without fighting back and hating my kids to witness this. At one point, towards the end, she was angry at me for not taking the trash out the moment I came home and grabbed me by the neck and started squeezing while my son stood horrified watching. I told her our son will always remember this, and she let me go. I should have left long ago. I know this now. I'd like to think that if not for my children, I would have, but I didn't want them to have a broken home and held on to the hope that someday my wife would go back to being the woman I fell in love with. I know now that those days are dead and gone and had been for years. After everything came to light, my wife sat down with her friend whose husband she was cheating with and told her point blank, "Yes, it's true. No, I'm not sorry." And then my wife got up and walked away. I was told this by her friend. My wife left, took the kids, and moved in with him in an apartment behind the one we shared. Even then, I held on to the hope that she would see the grass wasn't greener with him. He had cheated on his own wife several times besides with my wife, and she knows this. I waited that entire first year waiting for her to come back. She kept the apartment keys, and I assumed she was still holding on to them because she knew she would come home. But at the end of that year, they began their cruelty again, with him constantly dropping by the bus stop as I was putting the kids on the bus for school and telling me, "I've come to see my daughter off to school, not your daughter, mine." I told him then, "Why were you so content for the past 5 years to let me raise her to have my last name, let me be there at her birth and raise her as mine? Where were you? Why is my name on the certificate as her father instead of yours?" That almost earned me a punch to the face, and it did earn me a drunken visit by the both of them at the end of the night because he showed up to fight. My ex then decided to make everything public, going on Facebook and bragging about her new boyfriend. Our friends were shocked and reached out to me and his wife about it. I made sure to grab all the screenshots I could. She doesn't seem to care about the hole she's dug for herself with our upcoming divorce. Then again, why should she? I already got her with a paternity test. At the end, I became self-destructive. I kept wondering what could I've done differently or better. She blamed me for not being around for her. But if I wasn't working 2 jobs, how could we've survived? I didn't clean when I got home because I was too tired, and she's screaming at me about trash when our kids have colored on all the walls, tore down blinds, put holes in the wall under her watch. But the not taking out the trash after working 16 hours was the problem. The worst part was that I wanted my family back so badly I was believing it was my fault. Took a while to see the truth of it all. All that changed with my brother. He was determined to get me to play in his band, and even though I declined, he insisted that I meet the other members and decide then. That changed everything for me. I still declined, but I struck up a friendship with them and ended up casually dating a friend that the rhythm guitarist introduced to me. I quickly fell in love with this woman, 45, and it was a relief to be in a loving relationship with someone that wasn't a 24/7 screaming match that usually ended with me getting hit. Now, throughout this time, as I've stated, my ex still had the keys to our apartment. She would occasionally let herself in and drop off stuff for the kids. The first time she let herself in and my new girlfriend was there did not go well. She called me that night asking me who she was and why was she in our apartment. I enjoyed telling my ex that my GF was none of her business. She moved on and left me and was living with someone else. The last few months, my ex has become erratic over my new GF and has even begun to stalk her. My ex had sent my GF a Facebook friend request and demanded my GF to accept it. When my GF refused, my ex called me screaming that I need to tell her to accept it because she needs to see the kind of person my GF is, that I'm having our kids around. My GF grabbed the phone from me and told her that she does not need to add her as a friend. Anything involving communication about the kids can be done through Messenger or through phone calls. That my ex does not and will not have access to our private life, friends, and family because she is not part of my girlfriend's personal life. This didn't set well with my ex. My girlfriend showed me the sudden burst of friend requests she got from people that had my ex as a friend. My ex then started letting herself into my place every weekend and when I wasn't home at work to snoop around. I was on the phone with my girlfriend, who was staying with me while I was at work, to hear my ex walk in, and my GF asked her if there was something she needed. My ex claimed she wanted to see how much milk I had in my fridge for when the kids came over. My GF told her we had it handled, and my ex left. When I got home, I demanded the apartment key since she's not living there. She then took my son's keys and made copies for herself. When my lease was up, my girlfriend asked me to move in with her so that we could distance ourselves from my ex. My ex did everything she could to hinder this, calling the police and telling them I was leaving with her belongings, and when asked what was hers, she couldn't name anything in my place that was left that was hers. Now we get the kids every other weekend, and I was told by my children that they are not allowed to talk about what they did with me because she doesn't want to hear it. That didn't last long. Now she pumps my kids for all the information she can get. I'm sure it's jealousy. We live on the beach. My GF is very well off, and when we get the kids, we take a short walk to the boardwalk to ride rides, let them play on the beach, or visit the aquarium. If they return home with prizes, my ex throws them away. Now, the issue with my ex was the last few times she dropped off my kids. I noticed she now dresses and looks very similar to my GF. She dyed her hair and cut it to match hers. Whatever we do with the kids, my ex runs out the following week and tries to do the same thing with them. If we got to the beach, she takes them to the beach. If we go to the zoo, she takes them to the zoo. If she finds out what we had with them for dinner, she has to make the same thing and demands our kids to tell her whose they liked more. Last week, my son asked to live with us because he said my ex was crazy. You better believe I'm using all this in court. Just when I didn't think things could get any crazier with her. The other night she starts texting me, "Bears. What the hell?" My GF was sitting next to me when they started coming in, and I immediately got defensive and told my GF I didn't ask for them and that my ex and I aren't talking like that. I offered her my phone to go through to see for herself. My GF looked at the pictures and asked for my ex's number so she could text my ex her own bears back so that she could show her how it's done, called my ex, and asked her what the hell she was doing. I told her that my GF was sitting next to me and saw the messages and is pissed. My ex tried saying she meant to send them to someone else. My GF said to her that my name was on one end of the alphabet while her boyfriend was on the other. Then she asked her, "Who's the new guy since it was meant for someone else?" My ex hung up. I really don't know what game my ex is playing. This is all just crazy to me. Let me clear up a few things because the comments keep coming back as if I'm still living there. 1. My GF did not send her bears in return. That was just her verbal response to what my ex had done, saying that she should to show her how it's done because the pictures were of my ex with her shirt off making duck faces at a mirror with her phone in her hand. My girlfriend simply made a joke in regards to my ex's lack of imagination. 2. I do not live in my old apartment that I shared with my wife anymore. I have moved in with my girlfriend because despite me taking the keys back from my ex, she took my son's keys and used those to keep breaking in. She does not have access to my new place, and my kids don't even have keys for this reason. 3. I'm currently fighting for custody of my kids, and it's not easy with me not being the biological father of my daughter, but I'm fighting based on the birth certificate having me listed as the father, which gives me parental rights to my daughter. 4. My ex was prescribed meds, but I'm having serious doubts if she's taken them. 5. I check my kids for bruises and make sure they are not being abused, but she made the mistake of getting physical on her boyfriend, and he punched a hole in the wall and let her know if she raises a fist on him again, he's fighting back. Update 1. This past weekend was my daughter's official 6-year-old birthday. It was not my weekend to get the kids, and as a shock, my ex asked me if I wanted the kids for my daughter's birthday. Of course, I took them. I was even granted them an extra 2 days. I figured they had some plans and were pawning the kids on me so they could go do whatever. But the thing that strikes me is that this is the first time that he can celebrate his daughter's birthday, and instead of doing something special as her father, she's given to me and my girlfriend. Anyone else think this a tad effed up? Update 2. Just an update, but I have to shake my head at this. Saturday night, I received an angry text from my ex saying that she hopes I'm effing happy that I won. I know I shouldn't have engaged in the conversation, but I asked what her problem was. She answered with a response that made no sense and then proceeded to tell me to go ahead and gloat times 10 because something happened to her, and then she proceeded to accuse me of being in on it. I asked what I'm supposedly in on. Instead of a direct answer, she went off on me about how all men are pigs and can't be trusted. From this, I gathered 2 things. She's drunk off her crap again, and the idiot she left me for cheated on her. I didn't say anything. When she's like that, any response is a fight, and I chose to not get into it. I just read the texts and thought that she got exactly what was coming to her. She left me for my friend who was married and had cheated on his wife 3 times, with her being number 3, and when I brought this up as she was leaving me, she told me, "I know what I'm getting into." I guess she thought she was the end all to his wayward ways. When she ran out of insults to fling at me, she shifted her attack to my girlfriend, telling me she's ugly as F and I could have had any girl, but I chose someone ugly to replace her with. My girlfriend is stunning, both inside and out. My ex is also extremely jealous of my new girlfriend, and as I've mentioned in older posts, my ex had taken to stalking my girlfriend and trying to change her appearance to look like her. The attack continued with my ex telling me that I don't love my new girlfriend and it's impossible for me to fall in love with the first woman I ED after losing her. My ex and I had been apart a year when I met my now girlfriend. It took some time for me to feel comfortable trusting someone again, and that trust was earned and not given easily. She then followed up by claiming that I only love her because I lost my apartment and I'm kissing my girlfriend's crap for a place to live, as she so interestingly put it. It's only love when you're homeless. I had my own apartment across the street from my ex-wife because she decided to stay in the complex to flaunt the facts she left me for my friend in my face every waking minute. When my lease was up, I decided to move in with my girlfriend and relocate my job there. I know she was trying to provoke a fight. I just wasn't giving it to her. When I thought my ex's attacks couldn't get any more stupid and childish, she proceeded to tell me that she's sorry she wasn't enough for me. I wanted so badly to call her at that moment and scream, "It was me that wasn't good enough for her. She left me? Or did she effing forget which of us walked out the door, and which of us walked out the door replacing the other with someone else? She left me for a married guy that had cheated repeatedly on his wife. Real effing winner there." She then went on the attack on my girlfriend again, saying that we both know that she, my ex, was who I wanted to be with, that my GF couldn't compete or hold a candle to her. At that point, I had enough and asked her to contact me when she's better and sober and turned my phone off. Hours later, when my GF came home, she asked me what was wrong. I warned her that she was going to get mad, and I handed her my phone and told her to read it for herself. She read it and just laughed her crap off and handed me back my phone and said, "Looks like he cheated." I said it seemed that way and proceeded to try to reassure her, thinking the ugly comments might make her question me. They didn't even faze her. She told me that my ex's narcissist ways really come out full-blown when she's drunk and bet that my ex was upset that she couldn't come to me for a revenge F to get back at him. I have yet to hear anything else from my ex. My guess is, as usual, the next day she looked back at those texts and saw what she did and feel stupid. I'm also betting she's back with him because she can't stand to be alone. Edit. 20 years of her abuse was a long-lasting effect that I'm trying to work through. No matter what I did, I was wrong. When I was right, I was wrong for disagreeing with her and trying to make her feel stupid. I see now that's a narcissistic guilt trip. A lot of it is subconscious, and I'm not even aware that I'm walking on eggshells. If my phone goes off, I instinctively say who it is and show my girlfriend the phone, which is what I did in the past to avoid fights and accusations. I don't have to do that anymore, but it's a hard habit to break. When I do it, my GF usually doesn't even look but says, "You're doing it again." And that's the messed up part. If she doesn't look, I feel like she didn't verify that I'm telling her the truth, and I feel like it might open me up to an attack later. I know that it won't, but it's going to be tough to break. There's so much internal crap that I'm unraveling. Eventually, I'll get there, but that's the hardest part, isn't it? Recovering from all of it, not just the cheating, but uncondition the controls that were used on you. Just when you think you got it back, you get into a new relationship and the floodgates open, and you find yourself doing what you did in your last relationship to not make waves in the new one instead of just being you. It really is a long road to recovery. Update 3. As of my last update, my ex got cheated on by the guy she left me for. As predicted, they got back together 3 days later. I expected that. She has no one to fall back on, and now she's stuck with him for the most part. Ever since that last incident, I haven't heard anything from her outside signing a few documents for our divorce and communications about the kids, and I'm thankful for that. But I know it won't last before she gets drunk and I get sent another drunken, "You're the ultimate crap-off" rant. Halloween, my band was asked to perform at an event one of my friends sets up every year. I've been doing it for a few years, and it's a tradition. My ex used to attend with me. She didn't last year because that's the year I found out that she was sleeping with my best friend and that my now 6-year-old daughter was actually his. She wasn't invited, but she showed up anyway with her boyfriend that she left me for and who cheated on her and my kids. I was furious. Kids are not welcomed at these parties as they are grown-ups only. And she knows this, and I strongly believe that she showed up with him in an attempt to get me thrown out. Security kept telling her she couldn't come in, and she stood there fighting, saying that the kids wanted to see their father play. I've got security telling me that I need to get them out of there and her screaming at me that I'm putting a party over my kids. My friend who was throwing the party came down and told her she could stay and watch me do 2 songs. But then she would have to leave, and if she refused, he's calling the police. I told my friend not to cater to her, and he told me he was only doing it for my kids. It wasn't a good night. I was on stage and I wasn't privy to what was happening around the party, but I was clued in on it when I went between sets. Some of what I found out was that my ex tried clashing with my girlfriend, and it didn't end well for her. My GF put her in her place and called her out on using our kids to play games. This was witnessed by many people, and when I walked off stage, I had several people telling me and pointing to where they were. When I got there, whatever fight there had been was over, and my ex was staring daggers at my GF from far across the room. My daughter humiliated my ex by loudly telling everyone there that she has 2 daddies, me and her mommy's boyfriend who is actually her real daddy. That further humiliated my ex, as she said, "Thanks for making me sound like trash," and she ended up leaving after that. But my son refused to go with her and fought to stay with me. My ex had her BF find my GF to ask if we could keep him, and she agreed and worked it out with my friend to keep my son glued to her side for the rest of the party, and we took him home the following night. My nerves were shot to hell the whole night. I must have apologized to my friend, GF, and son 1,000 times that night for putting them all in the middle of it. I messed up every song because I kept searching the crowd to see where they were and what was happening, worrying that a physical fight would break out between them. I didn't know until after I was off stage that she had took off and left my son behind. When I took my son home the next night, she made it a point to not be there. I was told by her boyfriend that she knew I was coming to drop my son off, and she wanted to avoid a confrontation about what had happened. He apologized to me about it all and tried talking to me about her and how she's been acting. I told him I'm not getting into it with him, and I left. I get a phone call later that night from my son that they're fighting badly over me. Her boyfriend got tired of the crap she's been pulling and accused her of not being over me. He apparently asked her, "What is it that bothers her most? That I moved on and she can't crawl back to me? Or is it that if she hadn't have left me when she did for him, that I would have eventually left her for my GF?" According to my son, that was what started it. I could hear them screaming in the background and asked him if he needed me to come get him. He told me no. I talked to him until it died down. So that's just what's going on with me right now. Still going through the divorce, still moving forward. I just no longer look back at what I lost. I just need to get my kids out of there. And yes, I'm still fighting to do that. Update 4. My 6-year-old daughter was going on and on about her elf at soon-to-be ex-wife's house. So my GF bought one for hours and set it up thinking my daughter would be excited to see the elf. Sent a friend to watch her when she was here. My daughter's reaction was alarming, to say the least. The moment my daughter laid eyes on the elf, she became furious. She instantly started screaming at it that it needs to leave or she's going to tell Santa that it's bad and tells lies. She went into a tantrum to top all tantrums, screaming for it to go or else she's telling. My girlfriend tried calming her by telling her it's not going to lie if she's good. He'll tell Santa she's good, but if she's bad, he'll tell Santa he's not going to lie. So all she has to do is be good. My daughter bared her teeth and gave my GF a look to slaughter and growled, "He's going to tell on me." What the hell? I had so much going through my head at that moment. Why? Why is she afraid of this one and not her mother's? How many lies is she yelling at home that my ex is just ignoring? How much else is my ex ignoring now? I've had issues with my daughter lying. She likes to make claims that her brother hits her when he's not even anywhere around her. And we've been working to curb that. I brought that up to my soon-to-be ex-wife, and her response is she's aware of it and handling it. Now today, when I dropped my kids off, I plan to confront her about what happened with the elf because something tells me the going on there. I don't feel like something seriously wrong is looking too deep into it. I want to get her into therapy because it's becoming clear that there's a lot more than what I'm aware of going on there. Something is wrong over there, that's for damn sure. Edit. I already know at her mom's she's the princess because the real father is there, and she can do no wrong. I also know he gives my son hell because he's mine. My GF and I talked to the kids today about the behaviors. We asked my son if my daughter does this crap at home, lying and trying to get everyone in trouble. He said not as much, which left us wondering why she does it. He asking my daughter why she lies about her brother. She got defensive and says he does hit her, that he just did. When asked when that happened, she said just a minute ago. He wasn't even in the house. He was taking the trash out and hadn't been near her all day long. He avoids her because of the lying. When pointed out she was lying, she got angry and raised her fist to my GF and threatened her. I took away her TV and video games and asked her why she misbehaves and doesn't be good. She looked at me and growled, "Because I don't want to. Looks like I got to step up the discipline because I'm not having this crap." Update 5. So it would see my daughters freak out over the elf on the shelf unleashed a flood of bigger problems. I investigated why she had such a reaction to it, and I fell down a pretty deep rabbit hole of problems I didn't even know I had. To recap, over the weekend, my GF and I got my daughter an elf on the shelf since she kept talking about how much she loved the one at my cheating soon-to-be ex-wife's house. Upon seeing the elf, my daughter became agitated towards the elf, screaming it has to go because it's going to tell scent on her. This posed the question on why the one at her mother's was great, but ours was an issue, so I asked and got no answers. We went to dinner with my GF's ex-stepmother. My GF's father cheated on her, and my GF sided with her stepmother and remained family with her despite her father's divorce. This does wonders for my trust issues for my soon-to-be ex-wife, as I know where my GF's moral compass stands because of this relationship with her ex-stepmother. During this dinner, the stepmother made a brief mention of an abuse my GF suffered at the hands of her stepfather on her mother's side. My son visibly reacted to it but said nothing at the time. On the way to take them home, he opened the floodgates about what had been going on at home. I got to say I didn't see that one coming. It would seem the ex-wife of my soon-to-be ex-wife's boyfriend has been handling the affair between her husband and my wife with vengeance and extreme hostility. She wants blood, and she's doing everything she can to make their lives a living hell by any means necessary, including using her kids to attack my son because he's the son of the woman who took away her husband. These kids in turn think it funny to teach their half-sister, my daughter, who is really his daughter, to attack my son too. When I asked my daughter, she said it's a game. When I told her it's not fair to her brother, and it's mean and not a game, she started crying that I didn't want her to have any fun and started her tantrum. I told her it's going to stop. She rolled her eyes and told me, "But I don't want to. It's fun. What the hell?" I informed her that punishments would be forthcoming if it continues, and I'm not tolerating it anymore. Mistreat your brother, and I'm taking away everything, no TV, no toys, no video games, everything. That earned me another meltdown, but I'm not having it. When I dropped my kids off, I asked my ex what the hell was going on, and I confronted her with what I was told. She told me the OBS has been doing all in her power to make their lives hell. The OBS knows their side schedules for their side jobs and has been sabotaging it, which has been affecting them financially, and she told me Christmas was going to be ugly on their end because of it. I told her about his kids being coached to abuse our son and training our daughter to partake in it, and she hit me with, "There's only so much I can do and she can't watch them all the time." I told her if she's aware of it, do something about it because it's a problem when the crap going on here spills into my house. I know she's not doing a damn thing about it, that none of the kids are being disciplined because my daughter thinks it's okay to act up at my place and still learning that actions have consequences. Learning which I have to reteach her every other weekend because I don't have her enough to drive that point home. So every other week, it's back to square one, which now explains why she fears our elf and not the one at home. Nothing's being done. So now I got a new problem. The OBS is making it hell on all of us. Yeah, I'm bringing this up in court that my kids are being abused by the AP's kids because of this. You better believe I'm bringing this up. Edit. I'm going for custody for both my kids. Not that I wasn't before, but this just gives me a little more to work with now that I know more of what's going on in that household. In a way, it does explain the elf. My daughter doesn't fear the elf there because there's no repercussions for her actions there. She's allowed to misbehave, and no one is doing a damn thing about anything any of these kids are doing. She was afraid of my elf because she knows she gets in trouble at my place. I always had the suspicion that my ex wasn't doing anything about my kid's behavior on her end. This confirms it. The way my daughter reacted, what my son said, and what she herself said about it. There's only so much I can do. You can do plenty. Since she doesn't want to handle it, it's up to me. I'm using this in court. Update 6. It was today that it officially ended, that we sat on the Zoom court call and ended it all. I went through it in a haze because I thought of this day a million times over the last year, and here I was, and it was happening. Took 5 minutes to end, only 5. Neither of us were contesting it. She wasn't asking for anything, not that she could. Paternity test let me know what was what. Just a couple quick questions that were mostly not asked of me. I was asked if there was a chance to save the marriage, no. I was asked if I wanted to proceed with the divorce today, yes. It amused me how they asked her if there were any domestic issues or abuse, and she said no. I wasn't asked that at all. I found it interesting. I got hit plenty, it wasn't even an issue, I guess. In the end, that didn't matter because the end would be the same. It's over. All that's left is family court for custody of the kids. And with what's going on right now, it's leaning more and more in my favor. She waited exactly 5 minutes from the end of court to post it all over Facebook. I know this because my phone blew up with screenshots from my friends telling me about it. She made mention about how divorce is hard, but we need to set a good example for our kids. She even tagged me, which was a mistake. My friends got on her about how it would set a better example for the kids by not immediately going to social media for attention and likes. I guess I can't say crap about that. I'm here telling a bunch of strangers, but I waited several hours, and none of you personally know me. But it's over, and I'm not entirely sure how I should be feeling. I feel blank. Update 7. It's been a while since I've said anything, and I thank everyone for reaching out to me. I've just been in a mood with everything going on and not up for updating. My divorce was finalized last month, so that is one obstacle down for the most part. It was a good Christmas with the exception of my ex losing her job, and the AP she moved in with her is not making enough to make ends meet and came to me for help with the kids. I wanted to tell her to kick rocks since she waited 3 days before Christmas to tell me, and me and my GF went scrambling to find suitable gifts with stores picked clean. Before anyone tells me I shouldn't have done a thing and let my kids see her for the trash she really is, I wanted to. I almost did, but I can't do that to my kids on Christmas, and I told her this is a one-time help. I won't help her again. When she came to get the presents, she asked to come in to see where the kids slept. When I said that isn't a good idea, she told me it wasn't a request and that she needed to and it was her right to. When she tried stepping around me, my GF was in her face telling her that she's not stepping foot in her house, and if she's got some concerns, make some calls, But she, my ex, will never be allowed in my GF's house. My ex backed down, and I spent the rest of the night calming down my GF from wanting to tear the face off my ex. The best way I can explain this: my GF has my ex completely locked out. My ex tries, fails miserably, and screams to whoever will listen that it's unfair she's cut out when the kids are with me. Our life is none of her business and doesn't involve her, and my GF has made it loud and clear my ex has no place in our lives. Maybe I'm an idiot for this, but I let my girlfriend take the reins in this situation. She's immune to my ex and better at calling out the crap that I am, where my ex will challenge me and try manipulating me to bend. My girlfriend is an unmovable rock. My ex hasn't tried playing any games since then. I got my kids in therapy. Things have escalated with them. We put a camera in the living room which has been catching a lot of my daughter's lies. A lot of her punching my son and screaming that he hit her when he didn't. We've confronted her on it, and she's starting to learn that the lies aren't working here. My son is frustrated at how long court is taking and is having issues not being able to live with me full-time yet. He's very bonded to my girlfriend, so I have no worries there. They don't clash, that's a relief, but he's acting out at his mother's. He's screaming, punching walls, and arguing. I know he wants out of there, and I'm doing what I can to make that happen. I know it will happen. All that aside, I have a new problem with my girlfriend's ex-boyfriend suddenly stalking her, which hilariously was brought to my attention by a different ex-boyfriend of hers, my bandmate who was the one who introduced me to her. This guy went crazy the other night at being told by the other ex that she's happy she's moved on, and he needs to let go and find someone new. His response to that was crash his car into a guardrail trying to destroy himself. So much crazy in my life. I don't know if I should laugh, cry, or sell tickets. So that's what's new with me. Update 8. D-Day was over 2 years ago. Divorce was finalized 4 months ago. She's still with AP, and I've moved on a year ago for the most part. My life is so much better without her here. It is 2 years later, and I'm still finding stuff out. There was another friend of mine that she slept with before the AP. I wish I could say that didn't sting a little, but it did. It just increased the timeline for how long I was a fool. So I missed the signs twice. I know my daughter isn't mine now. I'm wondering if my son is. He doesn't look like me. None of his features are mine. Not all his features are hers either. As much as I wonder also if I really want to know. I don't think I can take that blow a second time. Ignorance is bliss, right? I try to put as much of her behind me as possible. It's difficult when kids are involved because I'm stuck co-parenting until they're 18. I tried to go without Grey Rock, thinking we could be amicable. I wanted to show the kids that we could come together for them. Interesting how the guilty ones are always on the attack back and constantly trying to blame shift even after all is said and done. Even more interesting how she thought she could still control me and call all the shots. When I didn't give in, she still lashed out and attacked. She tried her tactics on my GF, and long story short, she's learned to stay clear of her. My GF is a force to be reckoned with, and dealing with sociopathic narcissist isn't her first rodeo. I know that in the end I came out on top. I have a new life/new job SL, new home/new love. I'm doing far better than my ex who is dealing with the repercussions of her actions. Not only did my ex destroy our life together, she ruined AP's too, and his ex-wife is going above and beyond to make their lives a living hell. I'm sad to say this affects my kids as their lives are turned upside down by that crap show. The AP's wife is the poster child for hell hath no fury. She hit them hard financially, and my ex has come to me crying poor mouth a few times already. She lost her job 6 months ago and is yet to find work, choosing to live off her AP who is getting squeezed dry by his ex. I don't feel bad about that at all. I just hate what it's putting my kids through. I do what I can for my kids, but for my kids only. I won't give money, but I will take over what they need. I'm not giving her the chance to go drinking with my money because that's who she is and part of the reason she was fired. Yes, I'm working on fighting for custody for my kids, even the one that isn't mine. I need to get them away from her. My son has developed a deep resentment towards his mother, her fault. She's the one who told him why we were divorcing. He knows his sister is the AP's, and he makes sure everyone knows it. He told my GF before I could. I was trying to not dump all my issues on her as a newly divorcing father. I already had a lot of baggage and didn't want to overwhelm her, but my son is angry. On the bright side, his bond with my GF is iron tight. That's his best friend. My daughter is her mother. She lies, she's manipulative, she pulls the same tactics and reacts the same way when things don't go her way. She's learned from the best. The cameras up in the house have been very useful at catching her in her lies. She likes to accuse people of being mean to her and loves accusing my son of hitting her. The camera show her running up hitting him and screaming that he hit her. After we confronted her and showed her the video, she had a meltdown at being caught. Since then, she stopped accusing him of hitting her. Now we're catching her sneaking into things she's not supposed to and playing one side against the other, saying that someone said she could have something when they didn't. And that's another thing, the cameras are up for my benefit under the guise of home security. But that's not all I'm using them for. If my daughter falls and gets a bruise, my ex is screaming child abuse. She has tried accusing my girlfriend of hurting my kids. The reality of it is that my daughter decided to dive off the couch trying to make aita the chair because the floor was lava. So there I am sending my ex the video showing what happened and US addressing the injury as it happened. That only went on for a few weeks before my ex finally got the picture that no one is hurting the kids, and we have proved for every bump and scratch. I know it sucks taking it to that level that I put up cameras, but I did. It brings me a peace of mind knowing my ex can't play that game against me. It also brings me a huge peace of mind when I'm at work and my GF is home alone and I can check in to see what she's up to. Reading a book, watching a movie, or playing video games online with my son or her little brother who is the same age as my son. Having the cameras helps me with my trust issues. Now on to the next story. Story 2. Before we start, if you're enjoying this video so far, please consider liking and subscribing to the channel. Now let's continue. Picture perfect marriage imploded when I uncovered my wife's year-long affair. My wife and I have been married since we were 25. We are 38 now. We met in college, got married, and everything has been great. We both graduated, got good jobs, and started our lives together. Me and my wife both made good money, so money was never an issue for us. My wife worked for her dad's small business while I worked for a very large company. After a few years, my boss left the company out of nowhere, and they needed someone to take over. The only person who knew how to run the department was me, so I got a major pay jump, better bonus, better benefits, the works. So at 28, I was making probably 3 times more than my wife. At 28, the same year, my wife gave birth to our first daughter, then 2 years later, our second. My wife, due to working for her father, was able to be more diverse in working. Well, around 5 years ago, my father-in-law passed away unexpectedly. That left my mother-in-law and wife in a hard position. Sell the company or run it themselves. My mother-in-law had no clue how to run it, so my wife said she would do it. After my wife took over the company, it did just as well as when her father ran it. With that being said, my wife got a huge pay increase, more than me. I was proud of her. Going from a basic worker to running a whole company isn't easy. Anyway, our daughters started suffering from not seeing their parents. Me and my wife discussed one of us staying home. She said, "The company you work for will be fine without you. Mine could go under." I agreed, so I quit my job and became a stay-at-home dad, SL husband. I do everything. I make sure the girls are all taken care of. I cook, clean, fix things, make sure errands are run, you name it. I pamper my wife when she gets home from working. This went well for a while until about a year ago. My wife was always very appreciative of what I did and loved it. She has become very mean lately, like just saying things like, "Do you do anything?" Or, "How about you work for real?" What I work my crap every day, making sure you don't have to lift a finger when you get home at all. Also, I had a real job, but I quit to raise and take care of the girls, our home, and you. Not to mention, my wife is very sexy. Always has been. She quit initiating lovemaking, and when I ask, she is never in the mood. That was very odd. Eventually, I quit trying. I just thought with all the pandemic crap and everything else, she was just very stressed and it was getting to her. I started trying harder to make her happy. Nothing ever worked. Last weekend, my oldest had a softball game, so I get everything ready and we go. During the game, I wanted to take a video for my mom and dad since they live in another state and don't get to see my daughters that often. I forgot my phone, so I asked my wife if I could see hers. She had been attached to it all day, so it would be good for her to get off it anyway. She hands it to me and says she is going to get a drink and a snack. She gets up, I video my daughter when a message comes up on some app. I check, and I can't even fathom what I see. My wife and this guy from her work, who is 8 years younger, are sending attractive videos and pics, talking about how great the lovemaking was, and then me. He is saying how I am some wimp who can't get a real job, taking care of his women, and my wife agrees with him. I couldn't believe this crap I saw. I was so devastated and angry all at the same time. I heard my wife coming back, so I closed the app and started videoing. On the ride home and when we get home, my wife tries to talk to me, and I am not in the mood. Eventually, we lay in bed, and for the first time, I guess they hadn't met in a while, tried to have sex. I tell her I am not in a mood. She says, "If you are going to be about everything, you can sleep on the couch." I got up and went to the couch, and now I've been here since. I don't know how to move forward with this. I really just don't know where to start. My wife was my everything, my girls are my world, and all of that is dying. Any advice would be wonderful as I really effing need it. Edit. Should have mentioned I did send screenshots of the conversation to my phones. I do have the evidence. Update 1. I want to thank you all for the advice you all gave. First off, I do have the text pics videos and everything. Second, I don't any of the company. It is 50-50 between her and my mother-in-law. Third, I can't sleep in the bed. I have been sleeping the guest bedroom every night, and that is where I will be staying to answer. I have decided to divorce her anyway. This morning I called a firm in another town to avoid anyone finding out. Thankfully, they were able to get me in this morning as someone had canceled. After dropping off my girls, I drove over there. To make a long story short, he is a very good lawyer. I showed him what I had. He said that luckily for me, with the evidence I have, she will be pretty much screwed in the divorce. Seeing as I quit my job to raise our girls, she is never home. She is having an affair, prioritizes this man over me and my girls. She will lose very easily. He basically said we will get child support, alimony, I will keep the house, and she will have to pay for it as long as my girls live there. Also, he stated that we could even try for more money since I am considered no longer viable in the working world, to help me pay for more education to get a job. Some of you were right, he said to not work until after the divorce is over. He said since you are the husband, if you have a job, you can lose a lot of this. He asked if I wanted full custody. I said that I don't mind my wife seeing her girls on the weekends every once in a while, but I would want mostly full custody. He said since she had an affair in the marital home, I can basically do what I want since he stated bringing over a strange man over to the house put the girls in danger and makes her guilty. So I will be going for full custody where she can get weekends once, maybe twice a month. No man will be allowed around my girls, and if there are, she could face problems by me if I find out. I just don't want that pass around my girls. He eventually said to keep quiet until the drafts are ready, and then he will issue someone to serve her and have it issued that she is required to leave the home. He said he should have it done sometime next week. He asked me to just keep quiet. He said, "I know it is hard and you are upset, but just shut the hell up until everything is done. Once the divorce is over, you can say whatever the hell you want about her. But until then, keep your mouth shut." He said, "Act as normal." He said, "No fights, no issues, sleep in separate bed, and no SS." I said, "No problem, but why?" He said, "Trust me, just don't do it and do as I say." I just got home and have started getting ready for dinner and acting and being normal. I will be acting as if everything is okay until she has served next week. Thank you all for the advice and some very harsh words, and to the one guy who asked for my wife's spares. Just know it seems all you have to do is ask her and she will send them, so it isn't that hard it appears. Quick edit. He recommended I get an STD test plus a DNA test on my girls. When I asked why, he said it is pretty rare incidents like this are the first time they have happened, so yeah, that effing hurt too and scared the hell out of me. Update 2. I've been feeling down and things have been rough. To preface, I have talked to my lawyer about these posts. I didn't go into too much detail. They did tell me though, as long as I keep them brief and not super specific, that I can post, but I just have to be careful about what I put on to not lead too many details, that is that. So for quick update, like I said, will be brief and not too specific for legal reasons. We will start with the test. I was able to get an STD on myself and a paternity test on my girls. I came out that I thankfully have no disease, and I am clear now. For the one that I am sure most of you are wondering, the test on my 2 girls, am I the dad? I will always be their dad regardless of the results. However, I am here to say that yes, I am their biological father. I have never been so happy to know that I am their dad. Never thought I would have to question it, but here we are. As for what has happened with my soon-to-be ex, while she is out of the house and I have been granted full temporary custody. In the future, maybe a while, I will go into more specific details. However, for now, she is out of the house. My lawyer set everything up for me to get my girls and make sure that we legally handled her being removed from the home. It wasn't pretty, but details for another time. She was served at work, and from what I know, it wasn't pretty. Like I said though, details for another time. My girls know what is going on. My oldest knows we are separating, and one of her friend's parents split for the same reason. She has seen what happened with her friend and doesn't want us to split. She has been crying for me to let mommy come home. I will be getting them in with a child therapist to explain and help them understand. From direction of my lawyer, my youngest just wants mommy to come home and misses her. Kills me and makes me feel like a terrible father, and they probably hate me now. Sometimes I think I should just let their mother cheat on me to keep the family unit, to make my girls happy. I just can't do that. Sometimes I think about talking about allowing an open relationship and we can just wait till the girls are older, but that won't work for me, plus I know the girls will pick up on it and will not like it that mommy and daddy don't love each other. As for my ex, she is living with her mother at this point. My mother-in-law has called me and asked to meet. I agreed and we will meeting at some point. She didn't ask for details as she said we will talk later, but begged me not to take her granddaughters away from her. I said, "You are a great and loving grandmother, and as long as you can separate my girls from what is going on between daughter and I see no issue with you being able to see them, and I will not take them out of your life." She thanked me and that is it. My ex has been trying to call me and text me trying to figure out us. Under direction of my lawyer, he has had it set up so that I can talk to her through a trackable method, and it is purely about the girls, no more no less. So that is it for now. We'll probably keep updating, and once this is all over with, I will make one big update for all the details I have to be careful about as of now. Update 3. I had Thanksgiving with my soon-to-be ex and mother-in-law. I did this for the girls and made sure with my lawyer this was only about the girls and not about reconciliation. That was taken care of first. I have met with my mother-in-law pre-Thanksgiving. We met and had a pretty mutual discussion, mainly just things about how we will handle my daughters after. My mother-in-law did tell me some stuff about my soon-to-be ex. I guess my soon-to-be ex was cheated on by her HS boyfriend. Didn't even know she dated anyone. I guess this guy came from one of those families according to my mother-in-law, and they told her to avoid him. Well, I guess one night she caught him with his head under another girl dress and tongue deep in a girl's jewelry box. Why my mother-in-law couldn't believe she would do this. She had a couple of they met in college, but she knew they wouldn't last. She said that as soon as she met me, she found her son-in-law. Says she is so sorry for her daughter's actions and will make sure that she doesn't try to do anything problematic with the divorce. Anyway, a couple days before Thanksgiving, my mother-in-law asked for me to come over for dinner with the girls. I said, "Will she be there?" She said, "Yes." I said, "I can't be with her there." She said she understands but asked if we could put on the holiday one more time for the girls. She said, "I know you have a lawyer, ask them. And if they said it is a bad idea, I get it." I did, and they said tell your wife via the app this is purely for the girls to avoid any confusion. So I did. She had contacted me before about coming over. She has been begging me to see me and the girls. The girls have been begging me to see their mom. I swallowed my pride for my girls and we went. It was awkward. My soon-to-be ex gave our daughters a hug, fine, then tried to hug and kiss me. I just avoided her and went to give my mother-in-law a hug. My soon-to-ex tried to act like husband and wife and was trying to talk to me. I answered with yes and no's and helped my mother-in-law finish dinner and clean up. My mother-in-law is religious and wanted to do a prayer, and my soon-to-be ex sat next to me. I held my daughter's hand. My wife tried to grab mine. I pulled away. I know it may seem crappy, but I don't want her touching me. I am an atheist, but out of respect for my mother-in-law, I go along with it. Dinner was fine. Again, soon-to-be ex trying to act like we are going to be married and asking about Christmas and vacations I guess she wants to take with us as a family. When she mentioned and this stuff, I knew going over was a mistake. We finished dinner, and I pretty much got up, cleaned my daughters, and had dishes then was ready to go. My daughters wanted to watch a movie with their mother we always watch. I let them, and my soon-to-be ex tried to cuddle next to me on the couch. I sat in the chair. After that, my mother-in-law was very mad at my soon-to-be ex the whole night for how she acted. I could tell by the look she gave her. Movie ended and we started to leave. My daughters fell asleep, so I carried them to the car, went and grabbed something, and my soon-to-be ex grabbed me in tears begging to work on things and that she wants to be a family and is so sorry for what happened. Before I could say anything, my mother-in-law grabbed her by the hair, not joking, yanked her, told me good night, and began yelling at her daughter. So yeah, told my lawyer everything and said nothing indicated reconciliation, and you made that clear in your messages, you are fine. Wife once again calling and begging now to work on us. She gets left on read. I will only talk about the girls, and I am sure they are going to want to do the same for Christmas. I don't know if I can or if it is okay. Once again, I will discuss with my lawyer. Update 4. This will not be long, but things have gotten very bad for my girls. Basically, my girls had 2 sessions this week with their therapist. The first one was good. My girls came out what seemed to be more at peace and calmer than usual. I talked to the therapist after, and she seemed to be very good and understand my girls well. So I took them to their second one, and crap is completely effed. Basically, the therapist explained in age-appropriate terms that the reason me and their mother is separating that their mother cheated, had an affair, and betrayed me. I knew eventually she would, but I didn't think it would happen this soon. I went to get my girls, and basically it was a burst of tears and them climbing all over me and giving me hugs, crying, saying they love me. I am happy they love me, but this is not what I wanted to happen with my girls. I asked the therapist why did she tell them. She said, "The girls knew you two are separating, and the girls noticed you seem to be really mean and unloving with their mother. Your girls aren't stupid," she told me. "They know how you are and they know how you treat their mom. They wanted to know why you are separating. I tried to walk around it the best I could," she said. "But the girls are not going to progress in therapy if we don't tell them." I am not going to go into detail on what exactly she said to them, but it was age-appropriate, but they know the age-appropriate version of their mother being unfaithful. I think my oldest could maybe handle this and be okay, but not my youngest. So we get home, and my girls won't let go of me. They are literally crying the whole night. So I order in food, I put in their favorite movies in my bedroom, and we laid there all night. They fell asleep, and I went to the bathroom and just cried. My soon-to-be ex doesn't even realize the pain she is causing our girls. I don't know how I'm going to deal with this. The therapist told me we could try medication for a bit till they get used to the new normal. I refused to do so, which she supported and said it was just an option as I am not drugging them. Disclaimer, she cannot give the drugs. She said they would need to see their primary and they would probably diagnose my girls with something that would allow them to medicate them. I would rather deal with my daughter's emotions the healthy way. I won't have to worry about Christmas as my daughters hate their mother now. How I know, my oldest said she never want to see her mom again. My youngest follows what her older sister says, even though she may actually agree. I was shocked. I said, "You don't hate her, you may be mad, but you don't hate her. She loves and cares about you." My oldest just said, "No, she doesn't," and then just cried into my arms until she fell asleep, and so did my youngest. So this is my life now. Update 5, the girls are doing better. They are still going to the same therapist, but they are doing better, kind of coming to the realization. My daughters say they don't hate their mother anymore. However, they have made it very clear that they don't want to see her for a long time. Their words, not mine. We will see how that goes. My wife has been made aware of them knowing. She tried calling my girls, they answered, but my wife has since been a bit more respectful of mine and my girls' boundaries. I think the realization is starting to hit her. Anyway, to the AP already knew he was a POS, but F this man is awful. So someone asked if there was an OBS. I didn't know. I started looking though some stuff for my wife's work. I was able to find a piece of paper with all employees' numbers and emergency contacts. I called it was his wife's. Turns out he is married. I didn't think he was. Also, he has a toddler. Well, I told his wife and she didn't believe me and hung up. A little later, she calls me back and asks to meet. I meet her, I show her everything. She asked if we can go to my car, we do. Within a second of closing a door, she burst into tears crying, saying how could he do this to me? What did I do wrong, etc. Well, I said you did nothing wrong and gave her my lawyer's number. After that, she asked how long. I said, I think a year, maybe a tad longer. She then goes from upset to effing pissed. I asked her why. She proceeded to rip her hair off, it was wig. Tell me she just beat cancer. I guess after their child was born, they found some stuff odd while she was in the hospital, they found a tumor. So over the last year and a half, she had 2 surgeries, has gone through chemo, and was on medication. She looked very good, so I was surprised. She said she beat and she is better, but they haven't had sex in like 2 years. She said, between my pregnancy and cancer I couldn't. She got really sick while pregnant, then her cancer just killed her almost. Once she started feeling a bit better, she felt horrible in herself. She started gaining weight from the meds, lost her hair, and wasn't as pretty as she used to be. She said I was now at the point where she could make love and was going to surprise him here soon for being a caring, loving husband. That is off the table. She started crying about her child growing up in a broken home, and I consoled her. She then tried to make love with me. I said, no, you are not in the right state of mind and is not healthy. She thanked for my honesty, then proceeded to ask for the evidence. I gave it to her and she went home. We have texted her a couple times since. We are both BS, so we will keep in contact. So thank you for the few people who mentioned looking for the OBS. I didn't even think about it. Update 6. So I'm already being asked about did I have Christmas with the OBS. The answer is yes, I did. It was very nice, honestly, it was wonderful. The whole day was really amazing, all things considered. I laid out a lot of the girls' presents from Santa. This will probably be the last year my oldest believes in Santa, so I need to make it count. Anyway, I lay out the presents early, still dark, no sun, and the girls wake up probably within 15 minutes saying that Santa had came. I dragged my tired crap out of bed, and the girls opened their presents. They were very happy. After I popped on a movie and the girls snuggled up next to me and they fell asleep instantly. I eventually got up and made some coffee. My youngest woke up and said, I am hungry, Daddy. So I put an apron on her and let her help me make breakfast. My oldest then woke up and we ate. They played with their presents and had a blast. It made me very happy. I need them to get ready later in the evening so they could go see their mother and grandmother. I am usually more strict on them about being ready, but with everything happening, I will admit I have been more lenient. They get ready and say they really don't want to go see their mom. I told them that their mom loves them. My therapist has said I need to encourage their relationship for proper growth. Plus, if I don't, she said my wife could use it against me in court's isolation. She said the girls can make the decision to have a relationship with their mother when they are older. Also, my wife knows of the therapist and they have talked. She basically told my wife that you betrayed your husband, and it is clear that your husband are the girl's favorite. They are going to need to see a lot from you for them to eventually trust and love you again. Then I said, don't punish Grandma for your mother's actions. Go for Grandma. They agreed. I took them and it was pretty easy go. I got there, called, and my mother-in-law, she came out and grabbed the girls' things. They were going to stay the night for Christmas. My mother-in-law asked if they could. I asked my lawyer and said it was fine, however don't leave them there for days or do it often. But that night was fine. I did tell the girls that if they wanted to come home at any time that all they had to do was call me and would come get them. As I was leaving, my soon-to-be ex walked out. I don't know what they said, but my soon-to-be ex said something to my mother-in-law was a confused face, and my mother-in-law gave her a stern face. I think no. My soon-to-be ex looked at me with tears in her eyes and waved. I just drove off. I had left food in the oven and everything on warm for the OBS to show up. She eventually did, and when she arrived she didn't have her toddler. I asked where they were at. She said that I guess her in-laws wanted to see them for Christmas and so did its father. Basically, she ran the same deal as me through our lawyer. I was like, okay. She was in a very pretty dress, leggings, fluffy boots, and nice wig. We ate dinner and just talked about our past and got to know each other. After dinner, we went to the couch and I turned on movie. We talked about other stuff. Eventually, I got a bottle of wine. I don't drink often, but I usually like a certain wine on Christmas. She asked if she could have some. I said, "Are you okay too?" She said, "Yes." So I gave her some. Our conversation basically went from our past to our interest to our current issues, crying, and eventually joking and laughing as we drank more, we joked more. 2 bottles later, that never happens. Our conversation turned into sex, basically kinks, what we want/miss, and other stuff. We both found out that we are similar in this aspect, pretty much everything we are. She said that your wife was lucky and effed up. I said, so did your husband. I know some of you said I should affirm her last try at me by saying that she is pretty, but I just thought it was a bad thing to do. When it came to lovemaking, I did, and she said she knows. I said, you can actually take that wig off if you don't want to wear it. I said, you look amazing without it. You are very beautiful with a pixie cut. She did and cried out a thank you. We kept talking about that stuff, and eventually we started watching a movie, cuddling. Now mind you, were both inebriated. When me and my wife used to cuddle, my soon-to-be ex actually liked it and it relaxed her when I would rub her chest. More like a chest massage. I was doing it to her out of habit. Eventually she said, that feels good. I freaked out and stopped and said, I am so sorry. I didn't realize I was even doing it. She said it was fine and asked if I would keep doing it as it felt good and relaxed her. I asked, are you sure? She said, yes. So I did. Not gonna lie, I was aroused. She noticed and starting rubbing me. I went, whoops, I am sorry. She asked if I wanted her to stop. I said, don't feel like you have to or anything. She said she wants to. So we did that for a few minutes before she kisses me and I did kiss her back. This eventually led to her unzipping my pants and her giving me head, me then forcing her down and giving her disc, which then led to some very rough love making in the living room, kitchen, and the office. We eventually led to us in my bed where we had more passionate love making, lots of kissing and very slow love making. When we finished, we cuddled and cried and eventually fell asleep. Next morning we ate breakfast and got showered. I asked, did you plan on this? She laughed and said, no. A girl always has an extra pair of clothes. She then asked me as she was leaving, did you feel anything last night? I was honest and said, yes. However, we need to make sure that we are worried about us and our kids and these feelings aren't false. She agreed and said we will explore them later. She actually gave me a kiss on the cheek and thanked me for a great night. Said I will text you later. I went and picked up my girls, and they actually had a good time. They said mom was on her best behavior for the most part. So yeah, right now I just finished prepping dinner and we be spending the evening with my girls. Thank you everyone. These Reddit posts are like my therapy. Update 7. Things have just been very busy, so this won't be too long. Also, I don't blame for many of you thinking this is fake. Reddit is full of liars and crap stirrers and storytellers. Anyway, girls are doing much better between their therapist and activities. They're having a much better time. They are still having their moments, but they are doing much better. As for me and OBS, we still talk almost daily but have done nothing physical since. We discussed that even though we do not regret what we did, we shouldn't have done it now. For my soon-to-be ex, for a few weeks after Christmas, she was still trying pretty hard to get me to talk to her. However, that has for the most part stopped. She now has as a lawyer. My lawyer was made aware and has said that our meetings will be coming soon. She has realized that I'm actually done and that she can't get me to change my mind. I am sure they will want to try reconciliation, but that will not be happening. She is still calling and texting me every now and again to try to get me to reconsider, but she gets left on read. As to the OBS ex, he has actually been arrested. Not too much detail for now, but I guess he confronted my soon-to-be ex at work and they got into verbal altercation where she threatened to call the cops. He then assaulted her, which led to the workers there getting involved and pretty much dropping him. Cops showed up, arrested him. Soon to Bex as pressing charges. I am sure he will be getting a lawyer against her for their affair, but I haven't heard anything. Mother-in-law told me this and said you can see her if you want. I guess he blacked her eye and busted her lip, but she said karma is a B and this is her. So I have not seen my wife and neither have the girls since the incident other than this unless something crazy happens. You probably won't hear from until after our first meeting with our lawyers. Now on to the next story. Story 3. Found out cheating wife faked a girl's trip to get with her male best friend. Everything between me and my wife 31F seemed perfect on the outside. We have been together since high school. It was like something out of a romantic comedy. She was the nerdy girl who spent her lunch periods in the library, and I was the football player. Even though historically we would have never spent time together, she and I ended up falling for each other right after college. We ended up getting married so we could move forward and start our lives together. We bought our first house very young. We both scored very nice jobs and we started planning to have kids. Fast forward 3 years and we have one son and another baby on the way. In high school, my wife had a friend who had always rubbed me the wrong way. It was so obvious that he had a thing for her. But she constantly insisted that he was just nice. I tried to explain to her that it made me uncomfortable when she spent a lot of time with him because it was clear to me that he liked her and didn't care that she and I were happily married. Whenever I would bring it up, it would always cause an argument. So eventually I gave up. They talked on the phone all the time, they would always be texting each other and sending memes, and they had a ton of little inside jokes that I always felt like I was on the outside of. He didn't attend the same college as us, but they reconnected after graduation when we all moved back to our hometown. As it turned out, he was studying in the same field as her, so they were able to land a job at the same company. My wife didn't have a ton of friends in high school, so when she made a lot of friends at her new job, she was very excited. She was buddy-buddy with a lot of the girls in the office, and they would go to brunches, theater, and they would even have sleepovers on occasion. I was really happy for her because I knew she was looking for a group like that for so long, and part of me thought she would be spending less time with her male best friend. Last winter, I started to notice the difference in how she interacted with him. She didn't talk to him as often, or at least I didn't see them talking as much. He stopped coming over to the house, and I only saw him on occasion when I would visit the office. I was hopeful that she had outgrown him and they were finally parting ways. One day my wife came to me and told me that a bunch of the girls from the office were planning a girls' trip for the weekend. She told me it would be harmless fun, just drinking some wine and talking while they relaxed with their face masks. She left Friday evening, and I stayed at home with the kids. I genuinely hadn't thought anything was wrong. Saturday evening rolls around and I'm in bed searching through Netflix looking for something to watch when my phone rings. It was a phone call from her male best friend. Right away I thought it was strange because he and I had never really been close, so him calling me was bizarre. I answered the phone and waited for him to say something, but he never did. I was about to hang up the phone when I heard a part of the conversation they were having. He was telling my wife how much he loved her. My wife was on the other line as well. Wherever she had gone for the weekend, he had gone as well. I absolutely could not put down the phone while I listened. She told him that she regretted what they had done a few weeks ago and that last night was a mistake. She had gone there to have a conversation with him and end everything. It was then that I realized there never was a girls' trip. They continued their conversation until I could hear them kissing on the other line. Then I finally hung up. I couldn't believe what I just heard. I felt sick to my stomach, and I wanted to scream, but I couldn't do anything to upset my children. At first I thought it was such an odd time to be but dialed by him. The more I thought about it, people only but dial their recent contacts, so it didn't make sense for him to have accidentally called me. He did it on purpose. He called me while he had that conversation hoping I would overhear it. About an hour passed, then I got the text messages. They were all from him. They were screenshots of conversations, pictures they had sent each other, and even a clip from a video that he had taken at the lake house they were staying in. I was absolutely shocked. It was the last thing I wanted to see, but I was glad he sent it. I didn't say anything back. He probably thought that he had won this imaginary fight that he and I have been having for the past 10 years, but I would find a way to make them both pay. I sat on the information stewing in all of the ideas that I had to get revenge on them both. I knew that I wanted to get them fired, But that didn't seem like punishment enough. My wife came back Sunday night and couldn't even meet my eyes. She felt guilty for what she did, as she should have. By the end of the week, she would only feel worse. I pretended like nothing happened, not wanting to stir the pot and upset our children any more than they would be after everything. Their well-being was my priority, which apparently she didn't care too much about. On Wednesday, I was able to get a meeting with her boss. Her company had a strict no dating within the workplace rule, so I knew at the very least they would both be reprimanded for that. The real kicker in all of it was that one of the pictures my wife's friend sent me was of them together in the break room. I had attended many company Christmas parties in the past, so I recognized it well. Her boss was horrified when she saw the images of them together. No doubt she was thinking about how she drank her coffee at the table they screwed on. Now I knew my wife and I knew her well. I was certain she had no clue her friend sent me any of the information that he did. When she found out what he did, she would want nothing to do with him. His little power play cost him any chance he had of being with her after our separation. As soon as I stepped out of the office, I watched her boss storm over to her friend and practically drag him into the office. I went right over to my wife's desk and I dropped an envelope with all of the printed documents I had been sent alongside divorce papers. She had one of those open offices that didn't like to use cubicles or box their workers in, so everybody got a good view. When I served her the papers, I told her that I wanted a divorce. Then, with my voice raised higher than it normally would be, I told her I knew everything about her affair with her friend. I watched the women around her raise their eyebrows and hurriedly look away as if they couldn't hear anything. My wife's face was as red as a tomato. She was so embarrassed. I walked out of the office knowing that she was likely about to get fired for what happened in the break room. I took the kids to my brother's house, and we stayed with him for a few weeks while I looked for another apartment. She and I are officially divorced, but we're still going through custody hearings for the children. We have agreed on joint custody, but the biggest issue is figuring out the holiday schedule. She and her friend were both fired, and from what I understand, she has completely cut him off. She moved back in with her mom, and I ended up selling the house that I got to keep. Now on to the next story. Story 4. I divorced my wife of 10 years because she received a positive standard test after going to her friend's wedding. When people say one moment can change your life, they probably talk about my life. It amazes me how one small piece of paper discovered from my wife's purse changed everything in my life. I, 37M, married my college sweetheart 10 years ago. Prior to that, we dated for 6 years, so in total, we knew each other for 16 years. I'll call her Dove, 37F. She was my classmate in college, and I considered her my soulmate. She indeed was. A month ago, Dove's friend was getting married in a fairy tale wedding in Las Vegas. I was also invited to the wedding, but had something urgent at work that same week, so I skipped it. It was an elaborate event which lasted for a week. When Dove returned from the wedding, she was unusually quiet. I asked her if everything was fine. She said she was just tired after the week-long wedding festivities. It seemed natural to me, so I gave her the space she needed to wind down. However, it started troubling me when Dove's behavior turned cold towards me. Not only did she become quiet, but she became irritated at me. She started ignoring me and got agitated at every conversation. Not to mention our sex life was almost null. Whenever I initiated, she used to snap at me and say she was not in a mood. It's been almost a month now since she returned from the wedding, but we didn't have one intimate moment together. If this was not enough, I found something inside her bag yesterday which has made me anxious. It was a hospital bill. Dove had done an STD test just the next day after returning from the wedding. Isn't it weird? Why would she do that, and why didn't she tell me about this? I know it means something obvious. I love her selflessly, but I'm not a fool to just ignore such a huge red flag. I'm yet to confront her regarding my findings, but before I do, I wanted to have complete information about the STD test. I just don't want to confront her with any half-baked information. I treasure my marriage and my relationship with Dove, and I just don't want to destroy it in a moment of impulse. I have researched my best on this subject, and while doing so, I bumped into this page where several men/women have shared their stories where they had found their partner undertaking STD tests secretively. More often than not, it is related to cheating. That is why I'm here to share my story and see if I'm over-reading between the lines. I'm feeling guilty to admit this, but I have also sneaked into Dove's phone a few days ago. I scrolled through all her chat lists and call records, but I could not find anything doubtful. It was also clean. I also checked her social media account, but it was also clean. I don't know if I should feel bad about doubting her, or if I should be assured that I'm being alert. I thought of contacting the friends who attended the wedding with Dove to check if anything unusual had happened there. But the thing is, it was Dove's school friend's wedding, so none of our college friends were a part of it. I'm friends with her school friend, but not to the extent that I can ask anything from them without Dove's knowledge. This situation feels so weird because in the last 10 years of being together with Dove, she never gave me any reason to suspect her. We were always very transparent with each other. Edited to add. I forgot to mention that the bill indicated that she made the appointment on the day after returning from the trip. However, the date of the test mentioned was of yesterday's and the date of the report is given after a week. Dove's behavior was concerning me from the time she returned from the trip. I checked her phone a few days ago but couldn't find anything. Yesterday, when Dove returned home after the test, she looked very exhausted and tense. It got suspicious when she carefully hid her bag inside the wardrobe. Usually, she leaves it on the table or on the couch. I behaved as if I didn't notice it, but I was keeping a closed eye on every move of hers. When she went to the washroom for a shower, I checked her purse and found the hospital bill for an STD test. Update 1. Hello all. After reading the comments on my post, I realized I didn't give any background information about me or Dove. I didn't think it was relevant to the post. Nevertheless, I have replied to a few of you in the comments, but for general information, let me add a few facts. Dove and I graduated from the same college. We both are software engineers and work for different IT companies. We have a 6-year-old son. Financially, we had a stable life, a quite decent one. We were a pretty happy family until now, until Dove decided to screw up everything. After discovering the medical bill for an STD test from Dove's purse, I was restless. The comments on my last post, as well as the stories of the other victims, all indicated one thing. Dove cheated on me. Initially, I wanted to wait until the test results were out before confrontation, but I was choking up from inside. I could no longer hold it back. Dove also noticed that I was behaving differently the day I made the post. She even asked me if everything was all right. I just nodded and faked a smile. She thought that maybe I was retaliating for her rude behavior. So a day after I made my post, we sat at the dinner table. As we started eating, Dove again asked me if I was doing well. I nodded yes, but after a while, I couldn't hold back myself and blurted out, "How was your STD test?" She looked at me shocked. I repeated, "Yeah, that STD test that you took a few days back." She turned pale and asked me, "How did I discover it?" I said, "It doesn't matter." Then she said the most classic line, "I can explain." I stared at her straight and told her to explain. She sighed and took a deep breath while I kept staring at her patiently. She started weeping. The moment she started sobbing, my heart sank. I understood that my suspicions were true. Dove held my hand and told me to believe her. I told her I could believe her only if she said anything, but instead of saying anything, she pulled her chair closer to me, leaned on my shoulder, held my arms tightly, and cried. I let her emotions flow out. In the last 16 years of our relationship, I have never left her crying. Even with her slightest tears, I used to hug and cheer her up, but this time, I sat unmoved. She tried to come closer to me and hold my arms as tightly as she could, but I didn't hug her back. I sat there cold like an ice rock. Finally, when she was done crying, she freed my arms and confessed everything. It was on her friend's bachelor trip in the week-long wedding festivities of her friend. The first 2 days were a bachelor trip to Vegas. The event manager had arranged for strippers, male escorts, and whatnot. That day, I got to know so many new terms that I was not at all familiar with earlier. She told me that the bride and her other friends enjoyed all the services right from the start of day one, but Dove resisted. Her friends forced her, but she didn't. She saw the bride and her other friends having a thrilling time fulfilling all their fantasies with these escorts, but she restrained herself. I usually used to believe her as she was never a liar, but this time it was just difficult for me to fully trust her story. I asked her if she did it because she felt out of place. She said that her bride friend convinced her that she had never seen any other man in the last 16 years. Hence, she needed to taste the new blood. Her friends elaborated on how these escorts used several techniques to give them new age pleasures. Dove still didn't give in, but her friend convinced her for an intimate massage. Dove finally gave in to the peer pressure and said yes to the massage. She thought massage would not qualify as cheating and she could also dodge the peer pressure. However, the masseur was an escort. After the back massage, he started undressing her fully. She resisted, but he said it was an intimate massage, so she had to undress. She confessed to losing her self-control during the intimate massage and gave in. One thing led to another and she cheated on me. But this was not enough. When Dove told her friends about her encounter with the masseur, they cheered for her and insisted she should further explore. They also assured Dove that it would be confidential and nothing would ever reach me. Dove thought she had already done it once and cheated on me, so there was no point resisting further. She decided to better explore her fantasy. I was glad that she honestly confessed everything. She knew I wouldn't forgive her even if she did it once. I just sat there lifeless trying to absorb whatever Dove said. I knew my life was going to change. The woman in front of me was the love of my life, and that was why her betrayal inflicted such a grave pain on me. Dove nudged me to say something as I had not spoken a word since she confessed. I buried my face on my palms. She tried to hold my hand and lift my face, but I resisted. Finally, when I looked at her, I said I was going to file for divorce. She was shocked and said I should not make an impulsive decision because we have a son. I yelled at her to stop showing her fake concern for our son and our family. If she had the slightest concern for the family, she wouldn't have done what she did. I took my car keys and left the house. She tried to follow me, but I shrugged her off. I drove off to my friend's place who was living alone. He recently had a divorce, that's a separate story anyway. I drank until I passed out. The next morning I called in sick at work. My friend went to the office while I lounged on his couch searching for divorce lawyers. I stumbled upon a lawyer who was my junior in school. He was added to my Instagram account, so I messaged him. He responded within a couple of hours. I asked for a call. He sensed the urgency and desperateness in my messages and called me back within 30 minutes. His next available appointment slot was about 4 days later, but since I knew him, he asked if I could meet him late in the evening after work. I readily agreed. Instead of calling me at his office, he asked me to meet for a drink. So the last evening Dove confessed her cheating, and the next evening I was sitting with my lawyer and discussing my divorce. He asked me to sleep over my decision and see if the emotions subsided, and I decided to give her a chance. I told him that I was mindfully making this decision. I relayed my divorce terms to him, and he assured me of starting the paperwork immediately. I requested him to fast-track the process because I want to get done with it as soon as possible. Anyone who heard me would have assumed I was making an impulsive decision, but I was not. I love Dove, but not more than my self-respect. I told him that I trusted Dove with my life, and if I'm taking this decision, it is definitely severe. I cannot let her get away with the cheating. The next day, I went home in the afternoon. I thought she would be at work, but she was at home. She had become miserable just in the last few days. As soon as she saw me, she rushed towards me and tried to hug me, asking me where I had been for the last 2 days and why I was not responding to her calls and messages. I wanted to push her away, but she looked so pale and fragile that I could not do so. I let her hug me, but I didn't touch her. I stood stiff. She kept saying sorry, but I remained unmoved. She held my face with her palms and nudged me to say something. She said my silence was killing her. I asked about our son. She said she had dropped him to my parents' house for a few days. I freed myself, went to my room, and bolted it. She would not have let me pack if I had let her in. I packed some of my clothes, laptop, tabs, and essentials and hurriedly left the house while she was in the kitchen. She followed me outside trying to stop me, but I didn't look back and drove off. I checked into a hotel and then went to my parents' house to meet my son. I wanted to tell them everything, but I resisted because I had something else in my mind. It's almost a week now. I'm working from the hotel. I have taken permission to work remotely for this month. Dove tried to contact me through all possible means. Calls, texts, voicemails, showing up at my workplace, crashing at my friend's place, and local bars and restaurants that I often visit. One of our common friends called me today and asked me if I was fine. He said that Dove had been looking for me in the entire city. I asked him if she had told the reason. He said that whoever is asking Dove has been telling them that I left the house after a severe argument about something. I said yes, I'm safe, but I needed some time to cool off. A few hours ago, I called up my lawyer to follow up regarding the divorce papers. He said to have it shipped to me in the next few days. I'm waiting until the divorce papers arrive. I'll make an update once I sort out this case. Update 2. It took a while for me to update this, but I wanted to sort out everything before making an update. This would be my last update. So after 10 days of the D-Day, the divorce paper arrived. It was Saturday. The next morning, I went to my house. The situation was the same. Dove was lifelessly lying on the couch while my son was playing in the living room. He ran towards me and hugged me as we hadn't met in the last week. This time Dove was stiff. She didn't hug me. Instead, she gave me a cold stare. I played with my son for a few minutes and then left him alone and sat on the chair. Dove looked at me with a straight face and asked, "What did I want?" I smirked at her question without saying anything. She asked if there was anything she could do to make things better. I still remained quiet. After a while, she said, "Look, I know I have hurt you and ruined everything, but I'm guilty about it. I accept what I did was a grave crime, but you need to see that I could have skipped the STD test and you would never known about it, but I took the test for your safety and avoided sex to protect you. I love you. I'm sorry for what I did, but you also need to acknowledge that I honestly confessed the truth when I could have easily cooked up some lies. So we need to solve this situation instead of running away from it. Tell me if there is anything I can do to fix this." I replied, "Yes." I told her to confess her cheating in front of my parents and hers. She gave me a stern look. I said, "What? You can't do it, right?" She took a deep breath and said, "If this was something that would make me happy and satisfied," she was ready to take a shot. I asked her to go on and invite them in the evening. After staring at me for a couple of minutes and seeing the coldness in my eyes, she took her phone and called up her parents and mine one by one, asking them to join us in the evening. After the call, she looked at me with defeated eyes. I took a shower and was surfing on my iPad when she entered the room and said she had prepared lunch for us. I wanted to avoid it, but I knew from within that it was going to be our last meal as a family, so I went and sat at the table. She served me and my son, and we all ate it together. I felt bad seeing my son's face, that it was mostly the last time he was having a meal together with his parents. I know I would be called egoistic and chauvinist for destroying my happy family for just one mistake of Dove, but I don't care what others think of me. I know when my son grows up, he will be glad that I chose my self-respect over my love and emotions. It is necessary that a child grows up with happy parents who might be living separately than frustrated parents who are trapped in a broken marriage. And our marriage was broken at the moment Dove opened her legs for other men. After lunch, Dove took our son to his room for an afternoon nap. After putting him to sleep, when she returned to our bedroom, I was scrolling my phone. She tried to touch me. I stopped her and asked if her STD reports had come. She said that she had come clean and started touching me again. Knowing that it would be our last time, I gave in. That was the most thrilling sex we had in a long time. After we were done, I felt so guilty and sad, but also satisfied to be with her. She was the only woman I had been with in the last 16 years. I loved her, and it broke me to the core to think that I was going to push her away from me forever. I also regretted having sex with her because it would have given her hope of reconciliation. She fell asleep in my arms as if she hadn't slept for many nights. I looked at her face and wondered how she could do this to us. I don't know when I dozed off while staring at her pretty face. We woke up when our son knocked on the door. I opened the door for him. He played with us on the bed. It was such a bliss at that moment. I truly felt like retreating from my decision and giving another chance to my marriage, but I suppressed it and went out of bed. It was already evening. I sat in the living room waiting for my parents and in-laws to arrive. After a while, our parents were there. After everyone settled down, Dove called me into the kitchen and asked with an intense eye if I really wanted to do this. I said yes. She then went outside and told everyone that she had something to confess. She told them she cheated on me at her friend's wedding, but it didn't mean anything. She loved me and could do anything for me. She went on to say that she had confessed about this to me, and I wanted her to inform everyone about this. It happened so fast that my parents thought it to be a prank. I said it was not a prank and added that she had confessed when I found the STD test bill in her purse. Her parents looked down in embarrassment and anger. My parents were also disappointed, but they didn't say anything. I told everyone that I also had something to say, and it was that I had filed for divorce. I pulled out the divorce papers and started reading the terms of the divorce. Dove tried to interrupt me, but I continued. I gave her the house in which she and my son could live while I would move out. We both would have joint custody of our son, and I would pay my share of the child support. After reading it, I handed over the papers to her. She gave me a disgusted look and said I tricked her into this. She glanced through the papers and signed it right away. Her parents stood up and left immediately without saying a word. My parents also left, but while leaving, they asked if I wanted to move in with them for some time. I nodded and said I'll see. Dove went to our son's room and locked it from inside. Not only did she feel humiliated in front of her parents and in-laws, but she felt defeated that all those confession and humiliation was for nothing. I packed my remaining stuff and left the house. I wanted to meet my son, but I knew Dove wouldn't let me do so. That was the reason she had locked herself in his room. After that evening, I didn't get any calls or texts from Dove. After 45 days or so, we were presented in the court where our divorce was settled amicably as none of us contested. We didn't say anything to each other and parted ways after it was over. It's been more than a week since the divorce was settled. I've been busy throughout finding a house and settling in there. We may cross paths because of our son, but it is going to be only transactional. I still feel empty and frustrated because I know I have also hurt her and humiliated her. Maybe we both got what we deserved. Now on to the next story. Story 5. I divorced my wife for wanting baby's surname as same her ex who passed away. My wife and I had difficulties in conceiving due to an accident I had when I was younger. After 3 years, we finally had our daughter 3 weeks ago. Baby and mom are home and healthy, but I have been on the couch due to an issue over the surname. My wife was previously in a long-term relationship with her ex who committed suicide due to mental health issues after he returned from service abroad. Her son from her first relationship lives with us and is 12 in a month's time. Her son has her ex's surname. She wants our baby to have her ex's surname. She still goes by that name so that her son doesn't feel left out from his new sibling and future siblings, and because he had a better name than mine. I tried to compromise by saying since I practically raised her son, he can have my surname. That way he won't feel left out and she can take my name too. She said no, as he has had his name all his life and shouldn't have to change it to appease me. I tried to explain that they have 2 separate fathers, so it's natural that they have different names. I suggested she use her maiden surname and hyphenate it with mine for our baby, and she can hyphenate her maiden name with her ex's for her son. That way, the siblings will have almost the same name. That was turned down too. We have to register the baby's name next Thursday. I told her that we should probably get couples therapy and in the meantime register her with my name. She turned that down too and said she went throughout the trouble of carrying her and pushing her out and she should get to decide this on her own. I even asked her son, and he said he doesn't mind having separate names as he knows his father was his father. But I am dad. He doesn't care if his sister has a different surname. I told my wife this, and she said I am emotionally manipulating her son. We had an argument 5 days ago and haven't spoken much. I didn't want it to continue like this as this should be our happy moments. 2 days ago, I told her that the baby either gets my surname or we are getting a divorce. I told her that perhaps her dead husband could help raise our daughter with her since she doesn't want to acknowledge me as the dad. She called me a manipulator and says it's not fair that she doesn't get to decide the baby's first name on her own or the surname. Her suggestions for the first name when she was pregnant were feminine versions of her ex's name. Think Alexis, Alexia, Alexander for Alexander, and his actual name if we had had a boy. Today I called a solicitor and she overheard. She is telling me that I am forcing her into a corner with this name thing even though we went with her choice of first name after I sifted out the one similar to her ex's, and my choice is a middle name. I just want some outside opinions on whether I am doing the right thing. Like, what am I doing with life anymore? It's so messed up. She is 43. Most of her life was under her maiden name. She has gone under his deceased ex name for about 10 years. But she didn't officially change it until she added her ex-husband first and middle name to her son's official name when he was 7. Then she changed hers too. We were dating exclusively, but I didn't mind thinking she was doing it for her son. It has only been her legal name for about 6 years. She also wanted to give our daughter a feminine version of his name and the exact same name as her ex's if we had had a boy. Yes, she kept her ex's name and I was fine with that as she explained she wanted to have the same name as her son. But it seems she was keeping it for her reasons as she thinks it sounds better than mine. In the beginning, she did bring him up a lot in the suicide. I was okay with it, but a few years and I had a talk with her. She brought him up less and less. Then she changed her son's name and also her own. I didn't mind as she wanted the same name as him, and she was married to him, so I figured it was okay for her to change it even if she did it years after he died when we were discussing marriage. She said she didn't want to change her new name to mine as mine is just bland. I didn't mind. Romantically, we were okay. We had a period of dead bedroom but fixed our issues without therapy. She likes that I am good with her son but won't let me adopt him. This caused a rift, but to keep the peace, I backed down. While trying for a baby, we were more like roommates, but she really wanted a baby and so did I. We were overjoyed when we found out it was a girl as she always wanted one. Making a list of names and middle names caused some arguments but not major ones. A quick update as my DMs were full of requests. Update from the advice given on here, I contacted the registration office and they told me that as long as you were married, only one parent is needed for the name registration. I wanted to appeal to her better nature and got her, mine, and her ex's parents involved. Her sister tagged along for this mediation SL discussion. Turns out my parents and my 3 siblings via group chat are the only ones that agreed with me on either my surname or her maiden name. Her parents and sister, also her other siblings via group chat, agreed with her saying I should do it as she was the one that carried her. Surprisingly, her ex's parents thought it would be a nice gesture to name my daughter with their surname and to my shock revealed the first name I agreed to that was her suggestion, which wasn't a female variant of her ex's, was the name her ex wanted to name their child if they had had a girl instead. She blushed when that piece of information got out. When I called her on it, I asked her if it would be fair to name our daughter after one of my exes, to which she replied that I only had a body count of 3, and that 2 had the same name and both names were ugly. When everyone left, I tried to reason with her, but she slammed the bedroom door in my face and locked it. During the discussion with the parents, I tried asking her ex's parents if they would be okay with me naming their grandson after me after I adopt him, and they said they would never allow either adoption or name change. When I asked them if it was fair for my daughter to have their name, they said they felt their grandson was closer to his sister than I was to her as a father and both should have the same surname. They also ridiculed my choice in both first and middle name for my daughter in addition to my surname. This is a couple that I up until that point had a reasonably good relationship with. I raised their grandson as my own and was very surprised that this is how they felt about me. In the morning, she didn't come out, and I left her breakfast by the door hoping she would calm down enough by the time we would register to discuss it as adults. A few of her friends phoned and asked me why it was so important for me in the year of 2023 to give my surname to my child. I explained my side and why I had reservations. They still felt I was being unreasonable. On the Tuesday before the name appointment Thursday, she picked a fight with me and said she was going with her original name, female version of her ex. She went as far as saying that she would rather run alive herself than give her daughter my name. So I am a little ashamed about this. But as I pictured that she would no longer be in my future, I called the police on her saying she threatened to commit suicide. I am not proud of this. They came and took her despite her protesting she was okay, and it was only said in the heat of the moment. I guess I egged on the police telling them it could be PE, and that I felt it was not safe for her to be around our baby. I registered the name on my own without her blessing in participation. She was still not released by then. Our daughter's first, middle, and surname are all chosen by me. She obviously has some unresolved issues, and I hope she gets the help she needs. There is something wrong with her, as she instructed her ex's parents to collect her son and my daughter to look after via her sister until she could get out. When her ex's parents came by and tried to take the baby, I told them to off. They threatened with police, and I told them to go ahead, so they left with their grandson. Her parents came by during the weekend and wanted the baby to take to her, telling me not to be difficult. I told them no. We had a visit by a health visitor and the midwife. When she was released, she didn't come home and went to her parents. She has been there since, although she tried twice to take the baby from me. I changed the locks. She did drop off expressed milk for the baby and has continued to do so via her sister. I contacted a solicitor for the divorce, and for now, I'm keeping the baby, as even the health visitor said that social services are going to get involved due to her mental state, and I am the better option for care for now. There is no saving my marriage, and I doubt she ever loved me with other things that have come out since then. I will always love her son and hold out hope that someday, when he is old enough to make his own decisions, he will seek me out, but as my solicitor put it, don't hold your breath for that to happen. My older brother and his wife are staying with me to help out for now. Their children are all teens, and they have done this new baby thing 5 times, and all their children made it to teenhood, so I am listening to all their advice. So there it is. Now on to the next story. Story 6. Fiancé cheated on me, got pregnant, and blamed it on my childhood ex. Now everyone pities her and wants me to forgive her. So, I've been reading posts for a few days now, looking for solutions to my own situation. I don't know if this is the right sub or not. I'm new to Reddit, and I'm trying to find advice from people who are or have been in the same situation as me. First of all, I would like to apologize in advance for my vocabulary and my expressions. I am French, and English is therefore not my native language. It has now been about 2 weeks since I discovered that my fiancée, Marie, cheated on me with her ex because, according to her, she felt insecure because of my ex, Samia. It's the dumbest excuse I've heard in my life, but the worst thing is that everyone agrees with her and pressures me to forgive her. I want to hear the opinion of people who are not concerned. I will try to give a little background. It may be long. Samia and I, it's a long story. We met when we were both 3 years old. Her mother was a nanny at home and looked after several children, including me. We were so inseparable that our mothers became friends and decided to put us in the same school. So, I practically spent my entire childhood until I was 13 with Samia. We were called the Siamese back then. We used to argue a lot, but we were always united against the other children, which meant that we were ostracized, but we didn't care as long as we had each other. When we were 11, our families started to think it wasn't healthy and that we needed to make other friends. It was while trying to separate us that we realized that we were deeply in love with each other. But our families were very conservative. She is of Arab origin, and I am of African origin, so we hid the fact of dating. Then one night when I was 13, I made the mistake of going up to her room, which was on the first floor, through her window. It was dangerous but exciting. I had done that a few times before. We were just chatting at the time and kissing sometime, nothing else. But that day, her father opened her door without warning. He caught us kissing and tried to call the police. I tried to escape through the window. I fell. I broke my arm. All the neighbors were out, and it became a scandal. The whole neighborhood talked about it. Her father never liked me. He wanted to file a complaint against me. Even if I was not risking much at that age, it was still very humiliating for my family. My father therefore decided to send me to Africa to stay there for an indefinite period. But it was mainly to separate us. I tried to adapt to my new life. She also tried to adapt to her new life, but in the end we had managed to keep in contact. We spoke via the internet, and when I came back to France after high school, it was as if we had never left each other. We continued to date in secret, and at 20, for us, it was clear that we wanted to spend the rest of our lives together. We were naive to think it was going to be that simple. We decided to tell our families, saying that we intended to get married. But for them, it was as if we had announced the apocalypse. Our respective families wanted everyone to get married within its culture. Caused a lot of tension in the neighborhood. Already, when we were little, we had made a lot of noises, and everyone always talked about us and gave their opinion on our lives. It was very painful. We tried to hold on for a year. She wanted us to go and finish our studies in another city very far from Paris and our families. But my father was sick at that time. I decided to stay, and when my father died, I no longer had the strength to fight. I decided to break up, and she decided to go to another city. We had completely lost contact. I was tired of living in the neighborhood where people always talked about us. I chose to move to the student residence of my university. It was a terrible year. I came back to see my family on the weekends, and one day at a wedding, I met Marie. She had just moved to the neighborhood with her family. We were at the same table. We had spent the evening making jokes. We told each other about our lives. I told her about Samia, and she told me about her ex. She told me that she had left her ex after 2 years of relationship because she did not want to sleep before marriage. But her ex could not hold on anymore. She told him to marry her then, but he was not ready, so she decided to end their relationship. We were two souls in pain. We had become friends. Over time, we went out together, but I realized that she was getting more and more irritated when I told her about Samia, so I stopped. One day, she told me that she had feelings for me. I told her that I still had Samia in my heart. She told me that it was an opportunity to forget her. I agreed to date her. It was weird at first to be with another woman, but eventually, I got used to it and started to like her. As time passed, she became more and more jealous of Samia, but I never spoke about her again after she confessed. It was very weird how she acted that way. I lived on campus, so I didn't know what was said in the neighborhood where I came from, but apparently people were talking about my old stories with Samia, telling anecdotes here and there, the time I broke my arm trying to escape through the window and other anecdotes. I reassured Marie by saying that was the past, but she always compared herself to Samia. It's true that Samia was very beautiful, but that was beyond my control. She blamed me for having dated such a beautiful woman, yet she never saw her, lol, maybe in a photo, I don't know. I always told her that she was the most beautiful in my eyes because she was the one who counted now, but she always had to compare herself to Samia. If we did activities together, she asked me if I had already done it with Samia. What she couldn't stand was that I was intimate with Samia. In short, it was becoming unbearable. Despite everything, I asked her to marry me. She was from the same culture as me, so it suited my family. I did not have the strength to fight again for this kind of thing. The wedding was to take place in August. A perfect timing for me because I will have finished my studies in July. Other than her insecurity, everything seemed fine until 2 weeks ago when I got a call from a number I didn't know. From a guy who introduced himself as her ex. He told me that he and Marie were still seeing each other and that they had slept together several times. I didn't believe him. I thought his ex was trying to sabotage our relationship, but he sent me the screenshots of their discussion. I told him that these things could be easily fabricated. He then asked me to meet. I wanted to warn Marie, but I told myself that I would go first. I had 2 of my friends accompany me in case he tried to trick me. Then he showed me his phone, Marie's number, their discussions, etc. Everything was there. They saw each other for 2 months, and Marie decided to put an end to their affair a week before he contacted me. I called Marie directly. I told her that we needed to talk. At that time, oddly, I felt no anger, no positive or negative feelings. I was like a spectator watching his life in a film. A friend of mine had the good idea to ask me to record our confrontation. That's what I did. When I told her what I knew, she was shocked. She told me that it wasn't true, that the guy was trying to destroy our relationship. So I showed her the screenshots. She said the same thing I said to the guy, that it was something that could be easily made. I told her I went to see the guy, and he showed me his phone, their discussion of details about our life that he couldn't know. There, she broke down and started crying and asking me forgiveness. I was at her house in her room. Her family came to see what was happening. I explained the situation to them. They didn't believe me. I didn't try to convince them. I left. They contacted my family before I arrived in my family house. I explained to my mother what had happened. Apparently, Marie explained to them that it was because I was seeing Samia in secret that she did it. Apparently, Samia was back in town when I didn't even know it. Now everyone says it's because of her. Marie put herself as the victim and Samia and me as the villain. I was so angry that I decided to cut off contact with everyone. It's been 10 days since I've spoken to anyone in the neighborhood. I stayed with a friend from school, so no one knows where I am. I put my phone off and only contact my mother on email. I also receive a ton of emails from Marie, but I deleted each of them without reading them. That's pretty much the story. I don't even know what I'm going to do next. Everyone asks me to forgive her, but there is no possibility for me to do so. I only feel disgust for her, but I don't know what I'm going to do or how I'm going to handle the situation. It is complicated. Any advice? Date 1. Hello folk. Well, it's been a while since my first post, 23M. I've been receiving a lot of support in my DMs, and I can't thank you all enough. People ask me for updates, so here we go. I put a link above to my first post for those who want some context. D-Day was very close to my finals, so it's like I was numb and felt like I was an autopilot all along my exams. There were nothing else matters in that period, and honestly, focusing on myself was all I needed. And now I'm officially an engineer. I remained in C with Marie, ex-fiancée, 22F, her family, my family, or anyone who mind my business. But in the evening after my exams, when I finally got back to my apartment, everything came back like a big wave that fell on me. I was tired and felt abandoned by everyone. I was very anxious about the messages I was going to receive when I turned on my phone, so I didn't. I just wanted to sleep. I read most people of mine movies of their so with their AP. I get those images, but oddly it was me with Marie. I pictured a lot of those times we cuddled, making out, etc., and I felt dirty. I kept scratching myself, then going to take a shower to clean myself from the feeling of getting dirty. I did that twice in that evening. I had trouble falling asleep in my bed. I scratched again because it reminded me all those times Marie and I were sleeping in the bed. So I laid down on the floor. The next day, every time the images were too much to handle, I started scratching again and went showering to feel clean. I did that 8 times. Right now, I'm doing it like 3 to 4 times a day. I'm afraid I will damage my skin. Has this ever happened to any of you? Hope it's not a compulsive mental illness. So, the next day I turned on my phone. The messages kept coming. There were like over 200 text messages and many voicemails. I didn't read any of them. I deleted everything. I didn't have the strength to go through the same where people told me the same things again and again. I decided to go to my family house. I couldn't keep hiding any longer. I already knew I was going to find people there. Like every Saturday. I have never been so stressed in my life. When I get home, I found there my uncle, my father's brother and self-proclaimed head of the family after my father passed away. His wife, whom I will call Witch because, well, she is a witch, their children, a few family friends, as well as my siblings, 13M, 9M, and 5F. For some reason, my mother wasn't there. As soon as I got there, my uncle started yelling at me, and I didn't even acknowledge him. Just seeing my little sister running to me for a hug was a blessing. God, I love this little girl. All my siblings see me as a role model. I felt guilty for not talking to them all this time. Usually, when I'm there on the weekends, I help with their homework. I do put the youngest to bed and told them some stories that my father used to tell me. And when I am in my own apartment, we manage to talk every night to see how their day was. We're very close to each other. But my uncle won't stop yelling at me, so I got pissed off. I was sitting in front of everyone like I was getting an audition from a jury, which asks me if I found back my sanity. Apparently, Marie changed her version. She said she didn't slept with her AP. They just kissed. She said I put so much pressure on her that she confesses something that she didn't do. But I know what I saw on AP's phone. This girl called Marie. I really don't know who she was anymore. She turned to be such a manipulative person. How can someone hide such a vicious nature for so long? Or am I such a fool who wasn't able to notice anything before? We start dating. She told me lying was a deal breaker, that what she hated most in the world was narcissistic perverts, while she embodies everything she hates. It's beyond my little mind. Well, at that point, I didn't care anymore. I've told everyone what I've been through and that they have the choice to believe either me, they've known my whole life, or someone they've known a little longer than a year, which told me that it was impossible because Maria is a sweet and loving girl who helps the community and who even volunteers. Well, I told her that was irrelevant because even Hitler volunteered in some point in his life. My uncle said if it's true that Marie slept with AP, that I had the right to not continue the relationship, as if I need some permission to pursue any of my relationships. But when Witch said that it doesn't matter if it was true because it would be just a mistake made by a young girl, my uncle immediately agreed with her. HK, the biggest fool I ever know. He may have an opinion, but as soon as his wife says otherwise, he changes his mind. I wouldn't even be surprised if his wife cheated on him and he knew it. He's a real doormat, but maybe he is literally afraid of his wife. He is very small compared to her. If you see them walking hand in hand at night, you would think of a lady walking with her child. Then Witch tells me to confess it was because of Samia, 23F. I stayed calm. I replied that I hadn't heard from Samia for 2 years. My uncle told me if it wasn't because of Samia, I can easily forgive Marie. I couldn't take it anymore. I told him okay. I will forgive Marie if he let me sleep with Witch for 2 months. There it became chaos. My uncle wanted to hit me, but the family friends hold him. I tell them they were hypocrites. They asked me to forgive what they couldn't even imagine on their side. And now I didn't allow anyone to interfere in my life. Witch was crying, and my uncle said he would never forgive me and I was dead for them. In the moment, I didn't care. I went up to my room because I still have a room there. I felt some regrets actually because they were still my family. I admit that I started having doubts about the reliability of what AP showed me, and for a short time I was wondering if I could forgive her if it was just a kiss. Well, I came to the conclusion I couldn't, never. When I was little and my parents couldn't pick me up after school because of their work, it was our neighbor who took care of it because he also had 2 children in the same school. Then I stayed at his place until the evening. He took good care of me, treated me like his child. He gave me little candies each time, gave me presents. I loved him very much. He was a great man in the eyes of everyone, and this kind, helpful man committed suicide one day because his wife had an affair. This is what cheating can do. And I heard a year after that his wife ended up moving to Canada with the kids and her AP. Maybe my hatred of cheating come from that event. So I won't burn myself out to give warmth to others by getting back with Marie. Even though honestly, I don't get why people are trying so hard to get me back with Marie and how the heck it would benefit them anyway. My mother came back. I guess they told her what happened. She came in my room, and the first things she did were hugging me, asking me about my feeling and my finals. She is such a lovely human being, despite the fact she mostly communicates her love through her actions rather than by words. I remember a few years ago I used to work in a fast food while studying. I often came back home around 2 a.m., and she was there waiting for me, and we had small talks while I ate the dinner she reheated for me. We were having hard times to not waking up everybody with our laugh. So we talked about what happened with my uncle and his wife, and I gave her the full version of the why I have to break up with Marie. In my last post, I didn't mention the fact I only told my mother that Marie cheats on me but not in what extent, so she believed like everyone else that it was just a kiss. She was sorry for what I was going through, but what surprises me the most were the facts she was crying. Well, it was the first time in my life I saw my mom crying. Even when my father passed away, she was still smiling and trying to be the support system we needed and would cry only the night in her room when she thought everyone was sleeping. I had a breakdown seeing her crying, and I couldn't stop myself to cry. At the moment she hugged me, that I start having a bunch of feeling like sadness, anger, hatred. I felt the hurt deeply. She told me she would accept any decision I made. My mom came back downstairs, and everyone left. I didn't ask what she told them. I didn't care that much. I put off again my phone for the next week because I was too tired. I spent most of that time sleeping and catching up with my siblings, gaming with them, and trying to deal with the pain I was feeling. My mother did receive a call from Marie's parents several times, and she only told me once she felt I was in a good place to talk about it. Apparently, Marie was having a bad time. She spent some time in hospital, and she was going insane because I went NC. Marie's parents begged my mom to meet me just one time. So even though she told me I don't have to, I agree to meet them with Marie next Saturday. Marie lead the narrative all that time, so it is my time to do so. I don't know how it's going to be and if I should have them come to my house or go to their home, but I will be ready. In my last post, Someone gave me the idea of calling her AP pretending I might giving her a second chance if I don't have enough proof. Well, that's what I did yesterday, and I will see him tomorrow, Sunday. He said there is far more to the story. I know he said he won't send me proof because I might show it to Marie and he then won't have a shot to win her back. But he will show and tell me everything. We will see. Oh yes, people keep asking how things are going between me and Samia. I said in my last post I will contact her to apologize for having her name associated in this mess. Even if it's not my fault. Well, before I could do it, she contacted me by email. It's not what you think, lol. She was super mad and didn't understand why people keep telling her she messed my couple. But at least she was kind enough to ask me if I was okay with all this mess. I saw the message 2 days ago. I didn't respond yet. I don't even know what to write. I am like a brainless odd guy right now. But I will do it between the meeting of Marie, AP, and her family. I will update you guys. Thank you all. Update 2. Hey guys, a quick update I guess. So, I met yesterday Marie's AP. I am too tired to give all the detail because the situation is becoming really heavy. I met him in the same place as the first time. I of course record everything. Long story short, they dated 4 years on and off, and Marie never was the virgin she claimed to be. Nor was he the first man with whom she slept. He was and still is crazy about her. Even though Marie cheated twice, he was willing to work through it each time. But somehow, Marie get pregnant, and she didn't know who the father was. Still, he was willing to accept the baby as his and didn't want to do a paternity test. Marie's parents got to learn about the pregnancy and wanted her to abort. He says due to the stress, she eventually had a miscarriage. She was too depressed, and her family decided to relocate in order to start fresh. He says it's that time where Marie began to develop the idea of born-again virgin. Whatever that mean. According to him, she felt like her miscarriage is a punishment due to the way she used to live her life. She broke up with him and they decide to stay friends. So far, he didn't show me any proof. He says he had changed his phone in the meantime, but he showed me discussions they had during the whole period that I knew Marie. In the texts, Marie said she met someone, me, who had the kind of old romantic relationship she always wanted to experience with someone. Over time, she said I was a good guy and she could build something with me. And through our relationship, AP became someone she confided in when she was insecure, so he knows practically everything about our relationship. He told me details that only me and Marie know. He says Marie didn't like me at first. She liked the idea that I was able to have an amazing relationship in the past, and she wanted the same. He thinks that Marie still doesn't love me. She just loves the idea of having me completely, and she never felt that she had me completely, so it became an obsession. Well, I don't know if the first part of his story is true or not, but I know that everything he's told me since I've known Marie is corroborated by evidence. I'm getting angrier and angrier, and it's a feeling I'm not comfortable with. I don't want to meet Marie's family, but I don't know if it's true that they knew from the start what their daughter was. What is certain is that now I no longer want to meet Marie. I have this huge need to take all the evidences and send them to all people I know because it is unfair that I who was born and lived in my neighborhood must bear the consequences of her. But at the same time, I don't want to do things like that. I do have a lot of respect for Marie's parents. I should just send them my evidences and ask them for explanations before deciding whether or not I will meet them. Thank you for all your support on my 2 previous posts and in my DMs. I'm losing my mind right now. While many of you had lived for years with your spouse who cheated on you and some even have children with them, it might be my last update if nothing new happens. So thank you all, and I wish a lot of courage to those who are going through difficult times because of infidelity. Update 3. Hi guys. I didn't think I would do an update anymore, but I get a lot of messages asking me what happened since my last update. I would first like to thank those who left comments in my last post. I wasn't in a good place back then, but I read all of them and I appreciated all of your advice and comfort. So to the question, did I meet Marie and her family? Yes, I met them. I met them at my house with my mom. Before the meeting, I had sent a long audio message to Marie's parents telling them everything I learned from her AP and saying I was tired of her playing the victim and painting me as the villain. There was nothing left to be saved in the relationship, but if the rumors keep going, I was willing to expose Marie and our social circle because it was unfair to suffer from something that I did not do. I told them I had to cancel the meeting unless she come clean immediately. Marie's mother called me and said Marie had finally told them everything. She had removed her posts and came clean in all of her social networks. I don't use Snapchat or Instagram, so I couldn't say if it was true. I had to call one of our mutual friend to check. And yes, she came clean. I felt trapped in my own game because given how important it is to save appearances in a traditional family like Marie's, I thought she would never do that. So I maintained the meeting. I thought it would be difficult to meet Marie since every time I thought back to our moments, I saw myself scratching a lot. I thought seeing her would be too much, but in the end, it wasn't. When we met, I almost didn't recognize her. She lost weight in such a short time. She looked very sad and lost. She couldn't put her eyes on me. She didn't even talk to me. We were in our living room and had small talks at the beginning until her mother started to beg me to take her back. She was very insecure, that's why she did what she did. I had already prepared myself on what I wanted to say and the questions I had, so I did not deviate from that. I first asked Marie, why did she lie about her past and pretend to be someone she wasn't? She started crying and wouldn't look at me. Her mother said she was always judged on her past and asked me if I knew the truth. Was I going to still date her? I told her that the answers to the ifs weren't important at that point. It just led to imaginary paths, and the only path that mattered was the one where she chose to lie about her past, and that brought us to where we are. It was the only reality, and in that reality, I've been in a relationship all this time with someone who didn't exist, who lied to me, and who I'll never know what's true in anything she ever said to me. In short, her parents kept defending her, but Marie still wouldn't speak. The discussion went around in circles, and in some point, seeing how determined I was, they asked me for the sake of the love I ever had for their daughter to postpone the wedding and take the summer to think about everything. I didn't expect that request. Confused me. I did not know what to say. My mother, who had been silent from the start, saw that I was struggling to answer. She said she had already spoken with me, and I had already made my mind, and if in the future I come to change my mind, she will advise me not to do so but will still support my choice. She said the meeting was to give them a closure and not to consider a reconciliation. She told them I was traumatized, I lacked sleep, and that I had been acting weird since then about me scratching myself low. Nobody spoke for a while. Marie asked to speak to me in private. She insisted it was not to convince me that she would accept my decision if I gave her a one-on-one. I told her I didn't think it was a good idea to be in a room alone, but we could go outside to walk, and that's what we did. We walked for about half an hour. It was the first time I felt her so vulnerable and where she finally took accountability for her actions. She told me it was true that she had a promiscuous past. She never had any trauma that explains this. She grew up in a loving family. It was probably just her nature, but she started having sex at 12. At 15, she used to have different partners at the same time. At 18, she had already slept with 40 people, and she had stopped counting after that. She told me she had never known love before me. She just looked in sex for a way to be loved and to seek validation. She was loved by AP. She never knew a man could love her the way AP did. She thought that was what she was looking for ultimately. She couldn't love AP the way he did. She couldn't stop sleeping with other guys because the only time she thinks she could love was when she get intimate with someone. But after that the feeling disappeared and only remained a feeling of emptiness. She eventually got pregnant, started loving her unborn child, but had a miscarriage. That's when she started questioning her whole life. Her family moved away so she can start over. She broke up with AP because she didn't love him, but he was a good person and loved their friendship, so they never stopped communicating. Even before meeting me, she had heard of me and Samia. The first time was in a fast food where Samia and I used to eat. We were friends with the owner's son, and he knew us too and used to offer us kebabs. He always used to take pictures of his loyal customers and other things and put them on the walls of his restaurant. Among the photos, there were two with me and Samia, one where we were 11 and another where we were 19. Everyone in the neighborhood knew the story behind the 19-year-old picture. It was my birthday. I was born in September, so Samia had worked all summer to be able to give me a dream birthday. She bought me a tuxedo, and she put on a nice evening dress. She rented a limo waiting for me in front of my house. She promised me a dream evening. We got into the limo, but 200 minutes later, the limo stopped. She said we had arrived at destination, but we got off in front of the modest fast food. I was too embarrassed to have put on a suit, have a ride in a limo and ended up in that fast food. She had that kind of humor, but that was cool. We ordered the same kebabs that the owner used to offer us, and she bought a muffin and put a candle on it, lit it and asked me to blow on it. The owner had taken a picture in that moment and liked to tell the prank that Samia had done to me, even if she did give me the greatest birthday after, but that is another story. So when Marie found out about the story, she asked for more. People told her other stuffs here and there, and that's when she said she wanted to experience this kind of love. When she met me and knew that I was the guy in the picture, she wanted to know me. She was intimidated by the story she heard of me, and before she knew it, she had started lying to hide her past. And when she realized that she was already attached to me, she couldn't take those lies back because if she told me the truth, I would never want to see her again. She felt guilty throughout our relationship. She discovered that she was in love with me. It was the first time she felt love without having to sleep with someone. And the only reason other than her lies she couldn't sleep with me was she was scared that her love would vanish after that. Our relationship was everything for her. But she thought the lies she told meant that we had no future if I found out. She felt unworthy of me. That's what fed her insecurity about losing me, and she hated herself so much she was sabotaging the relationship, and one of her behaviors was going back to her demons and cheating on me with AP. Reality hit her hard when I found out the truth, and that's where she lost herself. She didn't know she was able to turn into a monster in order to try to keep me in her life. She made up excuses. She tried to guilt me into staying with her. When she realized it wasn't going to work, she passed out and spent time in a hospital. She didn't want to live anymore, not because she lost me, but because she realized what she had become, and it was unbearable. She says she didn't want to force me to be with her anymore, and even if I forgive her, she would never forgive herself. She says she started going to therapy to find out why she did what she did and who she really was. She says it might be a long process, but if I could find compassion in my heart to forgive her and help her be a better person, she would be grateful to me all her life. I won't go into, but at that moment, I was so weak when I hear her requests that I almost agreed to keep in touch in order to help her. I had so much empathy with this woman who hurt me. It was crazy, but I knew from the moment I saw her that the feelings I had for her didn't no longer existed. I explained to her that I needed to distance myself to heal and that she didn't need me to heal, that she thinks she needs me, but to heal, she have to face these things herself and that's the only way she can grow out of it. She says she already knew what I was going to say, but if she didn't try, she would have regrets all her life. She tells me she accepts my decision, but she is not giving up on me, and she will seek to become the best version of herself. And she believes in the future we will reunite. I wanted to tell her that I could never be with someone who cheated on me or who has cheated before, but I kept quiet. I just said that I had moved on and that it wasn't good for her if I gave her hope. She said nothing. We ended up talking about something else. Her parents contacted her and told her they were already home, so I walked her at her house. Before going, I told her I will BNC. It was the only healthy way to heal. She agreed, but it will be so hard because we will be in the same neighborhood and we might run into each other from time to time. She asked me for a last hug. I hugged her, and I left, and frankly, I felt lighter after this talk. I had no more anger, and I still have no anger in me. Maybe it will come back in the future as I've been told healing is not linear. That's basically the meeting. So to the question, did I meet Samia? Yes, I met Samia twice, but I'm not sure this is the right sub to talk about it. Maybe I'll do a final update before going to my summer vacation for anyone interested to find out what happened and where I'm going from here. Thank you all, you were great help all along. Now on to the next story. Story 7. Cut off my family after they missed out on my graduation because of golden child sister, but then they reached out to me when my dad was dying and his last wish was to support my jobless sister. Hi, so 10 days ago my family got in touch with me after 10 years of not speaking to me. I am 31F and at the age of 21, soon after I graduated from college, I decided to cut ties with my family and move away from them. The reason why was the way that they treated me in comparison to my sister. I have a twin sister. Let's call her Rebecca. She is 12 minutes older than me, and for some reason my family has always treated her way better than they have treated me. She is pretty much the golden child of the family and has always been that way. I don't know why, but my family has always preferred her over me even though I have achieved more than she has. I have always been the better student, better at sports, and even better at things that she calls herself the expert in, like art. You name it, I'm better than her at it. And the reason for that is because I was always trying to outdo her as a child, hoping that maybe that would make my parents like me better. If anything, it just made them like me less because to them it probably seemed like I was trying to do it on purpose to put my sister down. It was not like that, honestly. I just wanted them to give me the same kind of love and affection that I saw Rebecca receiving, but never me. They always supported her and enrolled her in whatever classes that she wanted to go to, bought her whatever she wanted, and she just had my parents wrapped around her finger all her life. For me, it was completely different. Every time I asked for something, I would be told not to act entitled and spoiled. And even when it came to college, she said that she wanted to take a year, which turned into 3 years. She never ended up going to college, so she doesn't even have a degree. I, on the other hand, got accepted into a reputable business school because I had pretty good grades, and I needed money from my parents to cover my college tuition, but they told me that I would have to take out a student loan and pay it all off myself in the future because they did not think that they needed to sponsor me even after I had turned 18. I thought that was really hurtful, but I needed them to help me out with the loan, so I did not say anything then. I had accepted the fact that they were never going to love me as much as they loved Rebecca, so had just accepted my fate. I didn't really keep in touch with them while I was in college and just came back home from the holidays occasionally. Even then, I would not talk to them much because after high school I had pretty much distanced myself from my parents emotionally so that I wouldn't keep getting hurt over and over again. When I was about to graduate, I had invited them to attend a ceremony, but I never got a response from them. I tried everything. I tried to call them, I sent them new emails, and I even thought about visiting them, but by then I had already tried calling them and messaging them, but they had not responded to any of that, so I figured that they just did not want to attend. It was not until after the ceremony that I found out from a couple of relatives that they were not able to attend because my graduation ceremony was on the same day as my sister's first day of art school, and of course her first day at 21 was far more important than my graduation ceremony, so they could not let her be alone that day. It was crazy because she wasn't even going to any reputable institution. She was taking art classes in the nearby community college, which was literally just half an hour away from our house. I think that's the day that I pretty much realized that my existence did not make a difference to them, and they would rather I don't contact them again. The message was loud and clear, it always had been, but that was the day that I decided that I did not need to pretend like I had a family just to console myself. In fact, not having a family was probably better than having one like this, so I just stopped speaking to my parents, blocked them everywhere, and I was done with it. I did the same for my sister because Rebecca and I also never shared a good relationship because of the love and affection that she received from my parents. She always assumed that she was better than me even though I had a lot of evidence to prove otherwise. I was better than her in every aspect. I think she knew it, which is why she was so insecure of me and always tried to put me down. Well, the joke's on her because now I am in a far better place than she is in her life. She was always pretty arrogant and smug about everything, so we never really got along, and I did not regret blocking her and cutting them all out of my life. After that, I didn't really have any financial support and I also had to worry about paying off my student debts. So I took up the first job opportunity that came my way, and since then I've been working to prove myself and let everybody know that I'm good enough on my own and I don't need my parents to survive. Things were difficult at first, but I had a lot of good friends from college and from school overall always there for me and had my back. And now I am in a really good position financially and mentally as well. For the past 5 years, I've been working in a vegan products company, and recently I've been considering starting my own business. I've been really into the whole vegan lifestyle and I've been studying it in depth for the past couple of years even though I am not vegan myself, and I think it's a huge market to be tapped into, so I've been considering starting something of my own for the past few months and have spoken to a couple of people who were willing to join me in my venture. So the plan was to start working on my business model and plan everything out in the next few months, and then I would quit my job once I had a couple of investors on board and start my own business. But then last week I received news from my family that my father was on his deathbed and I had to come meet him. It has been 10 years since I have spoken to anybody from my family, and I was really surprised that they were reaching out to me, but when I learned that my father had been battling with cancer for the last 3 years, I did not think of anything and I dropped everything to go back home. It was already too late though, since he was in a really bad condition and there was no going back, so probably in the last ditch, after to make things right with me or maybe just to talk about my sister, they had invited me to visit him one last time. When I saw him, I almost broke down in the hospital because I had never seen my dad like that, and my mother hugged me, and it was just really painful, to be honest. For a while, I had forgotten everything from the past and I was just worried about my father and whether he was going to be able to make it or not. Rebecca was also there, but I did not speak to her because she did not put in any effort to talk to me. She had just made a face and was sitting in the corner the entire time that I was there. My mom spoke to me and told her my father, but she was the only person who pretended like I was not even there, and I found that really annoying, so I did not speak to her anyway. I really don't like her and I have no interest in what she's up to, so I thought that it was completely fine for us to speak to each other, and nobody else in the family seemed to mind our behavior either because they knew the kind of relationship that I had with these people. This was just 1 week ago, and 2 days after my father passed away. Everybody already knew that he was not going to make it, so my mother and my sister had already made the arrangements for the funeral, and it did not take too much time to wrap everything up, so I was able to come back home. But unfortunately, I had been made to agree to something that I really did not want to do before my father passed away. On the second day of my visit, Rebecca had gone home because she was really exhausted at one point, so it was just my parents and I in the hospital room, and then they started talking to me about my work. I thought that it was really innocent and I did not think much of it because my father was literally on his deathbed. I did not think that they could be up to something nefarious at that moment, so I told them that I had been working at a really successful company for the past 2 years and I was doing well. They heard me out for a bit and congratulated me, but then they started telling me about how badly Rebecca was. They said that she had dropped out of community college the first couple of months and bothered to go back. She did not have a degree and her grades had not been that great when she was in school either, so she couldn't exactly explain the gap, and she didn't even go to any college, so she did not do anything until she was 25, and then my parents started pressuring her to get a job. So she finally did, but she was never able to last longer than 3 to 4 months. She would come back home after a couple of months and tell our parents that she had quit the job because it was just too much and they would not pay her enough. It didn't even make sense because they were paying her exactly the right amount. She was working low-paying jobs because she did not have a degree and she was not even willing to put in the time and effort to work hard and move up the ladder. None of it made sense, and they had been trying really hard to explain to her that her arguments would not hold in the real world, and so they had been fighting a lot with Rebecca and trying to make her independent, but she didn't seem to care about the future at all. She was just not serious about anything and was taking everything very casually. Whenever my parents tried to speak to her about it, she would just blow them off, and recently she quit her last job 6 months ago and was just sitting at home with nothing to do. They told me that they were really worried about her and they wanted me to be the one to look out for her because after my father was gone, my mother was too old and she would have to think about her own retirement as well, since she was just 1 year away from retiring, and she just couldn't bring herself to constantly keep her working to support her daughter, who should be able to support herself by now anymore. Honestly, I had no idea how to respond to any of what they were saying because my dad was suffering and I did not want to be the one to break the heart after so long because we had gone 10 years without having any contact with each other, and at that moment I was having really mixed emotions. I tried to tell my parents that I was planning on starting a business of my own. This was really not the right time for me to take on such a responsibility because I knew that Rebecca was a liability and she did not have any interest in making money of her own. She was totally comfortable with living off of other people's money, and that's what she had been doing so far. The only difference was that before this it had been my parents taking care of her, mostly my father because he made more money than my mother, but now my father was passing the baton to me and telling me that I had to look out for sister. I could understand why he wanted me to take up the responsibility, but I tried to tell them that it would not be possible for me at the time since I was planning on quitting my job and starting something of my own, so all my money would go into that. But my dad told me that they had already spent a lot of money on healthcare for him and his medical expenditure, and even after this he wanted my mother to be comfortable, and that was his priority. He knew that I would be there to look out for Rebecca, which is why he was counting on me, and he kind of forced and manipulated me into agreeing to take care of Rebecca's future. He made me promise that I would put my business plans on hold until Rebecca was at least a little financially stable, and I was made to promise that I would look out for her and have her back until then. I did not even know how long that would take, but I still said yes because I did not feel comfortable saying no to a man who was on his deathbed no matter what he had done to me in the past. I was just not comfortable with it. I guess that was really stupid of me, but I don't think anybody else in my position would have been able to react a different way, and if somebody had been able to stand up to their parents in that position, well, I have to say that they might be really strong, but I am not that way, and I just ended up agreeing to it. I was not happy about it, but I had to do it because as it appeared my father was going to pass away soon, and I could not say no to his dying wish. They also told me exactly what it involved since Rebecca was actually in a relationship with a guy from school and was planning to visit him since he was working in another city but in the same state. I really couldn't figure out why they couldn't visit each other more often because it's not Rebecca, at least Jared had a job and he could come to visit her. But they were doing the long-distance thing. So as it happens, I know this guy that she was dating and I know the kind of person that he is, so I instantly knew that it was not good for her to be involved with him. That night itself, my parents told me that Rebecca had been talking to this guy for the past 2 years and it had mostly been online, but he had come back here to visit for a couple of weeks during the holidays and that's the only time that they got together. This man, let's call him Jared. Let's just say he doesn't have the strongest values when it comes to women. In school, he was notorious for flirting with every girl that he could talk to and he had been busted for cheating several times by his high school girlfriends. I did not keep track of him after we graduated, but I did hear from a couple of common friends from high school that he had already been divorced once and that was also for infidelity. I don't know what his problem was, but I knew that this was not a guy that I would trust personally. I tried to explain this to my parents as well, but they told me that Rebecca seemed to really like him and they had seen them together during his visits back home and they believed that they were meant to be together because they looked absolutely perfect and really in love. I already had a bad feeling about this because they were doing the long-distance thing and it just meant that it opened up all sorts of avenues for him to cheat without worrying about being caught since he was in another city altogether and Rebecca was clueless about this. My parents told me that wanted me to pay for her flight tickets to go see him in the next couple of weeks because they knew that she would be pretty weak and only after our father passed on and they wanted her to have somebody since my mother would be too busy with illegal formalities after my father's death and I would obviously have to go back to my work. So she would need somebody by her side and they wanted it to be her boyfriend. I tried my best to tell them about the kind of guy that was and warned them of the consequences of this. They were convinced that Rebecca and Jared were going to get married in the future and kept telling me that I had to take care of these things after my father was gone and I would have to bear the expense of the wedding in the future as well. They were pretty convinced that Jared was the perfect guy for Rebecca and I really couldn't talk any sense into them. So I just agreed to it as well because it seemed pretty pointless to try and convince them that he was not the right guy after my father passed away. I pulled Rebecca aside at the funeral and I told her that I knew about Jared and then I tried to warn her of the consequences. I had known Jared and his Casanova behavior for a really long time and I did not think that it was good that she was involved with him, but just like my parents, she also shook off my warning and told me that he had changed and she knew it. She told me that they were in love and she knew that he would never cheat on her or do anything to hurt her. So she was not too worried about my warnings. She thanked me for being concerned for her, but then told me that she would just appreciate the financial help and that I did not have to actually be her parent and try to have any sort of emotional bond with her. It was simply not required. That was kind of mean and hurtful, and that day after that conversation I decided that I was going to do exactly as she said. My father had only told me to look out for her financially. He hadn't said anything about the emotional factor. So in a way, she was right about what she said and I decided that I was going to keep myself emotionally distanced from my family because I had better things to do and focus on my work. After the funeral, I came back here and it has been a week since then. 2 days after the funeral, my mother told me to book flight tickets for Rebecca to go see Jared and I did what she asked me to. I did not bother to check up on anybody after that because I got busy with my work. However, yesterday I had an unexpected visitor show up at my doorstep. It was actually Rebecca who had taken the bus from Jared's city to mine since she had been too embarrassed to call me. But she did not want to go home either. She could afford bus tickets, so that's how she came here after traveling for 10 hours. When she showed up, she was exhausted and in tears. As I opened the door to her, I was really confused about what was going on. And the second that I opened the door, she started crying immediately and told me that I had been right about everything. She told me that she had been planning to surprise Jared. So when she showed up at his place, it had been quite unexpected, and he had actually been spending time with another girl at his house when she showed up. When she saw that, she confronted him about it immediately and asked her who that was, and he told her to mind her own business. He then said that they were not exclusive and he was free to do whatever he wanted when he was not at home with her, so she had no right to ask him about his life here. That obviously pissed her off because in her head they had been together for 2 years and she was fully committed to him and was thinking about getting married to him, so that was pretty hurtful, and they ended up getting into a really big fight in his hallway. And in a bit of anger, apparently she decided to lift her duffel bag and hit him with it because she was that pissed off, and unfortunately one of the chains on the bag caught him in the eyebrow and he started bleeding profusely. She got really scared and made her run for it, got to the bus stop and took the first bus that she could find that led her here, and now she wants my help. She told me that she was ready to learn how to be independent and fix her life, and I needed to be the one to do it for her because I had been independent for a really long time, almost 10 years now, so she thought that there would be nobody better to teach her the ropes in my line of work and give her a job. She told me that she knew I was about to start a business of my own and was hoping that maybe I would give her an opportunity to work there. Not as an employee, but as a partner. It was just a lot to process for me, and before I could agree to anything, I decided to ask her if she knew whether Jared had decided to press charges against her or not, because if he had, I did not want anything to do with her because what she had done was wrong. No matter what Jared was doing, she had no right to get physically violent with him, and that was grounds for pressing charges against her. Even if she had managed to run away from the scene, he could still just as easily find her out and she could be arrested for it. In that case, I did not want anything to do with her because I was not going to be the one to clean up her mess anymore. When I asked her about it, that's when the truth came out and she told me that she hadn't actually managed to escape. Escape? He had pressed charges against her and she had to pay a huge fine as compensation for what she did as well, which is why she was here. I told her there was no way I was going to help her out and told her to go back home because I did not want to get involved in any of this. She got very upset when I said that and reminded me of the promise that I had made to my father before he passed away. But I told her that the promise didn't matter anymore because it was very obvious to me that she was an idiot and was never going to do the right thing, so I was not going to be there to clean up her mess after her. I just wanted to start my own business and I did not want her to join me because she was a total liability. I told her that the least that I could do for her was book her tickets to go back home. But after that she was on her own and I was just going back to no contact with my family again because this was too much. It had been just 1 week and she had already screwed up colossally. None of this would have happened if she had just heeded my warning and stayed away from that guy, which chose not to do even after what I said to her. So I was just really irritated by everything and I told her that I was going to book her the flight tickets so she could just go to the airport and wait there instead because I did not want her to waste my time since I had a lot of work to catch up on. She couldn't argue with me because I was already booking the tickets, so she headed to the airport in a cab a few minutes later. I thought that that would be the end of it, but obviously now my mother is pissed off about what I did. She believes that I should have been kinder to my sister and should have taken her on as a partner in the business since she wanted to clean up her life and get her act together. This was my opportunity to be helpful and I declined it because I was too selfish to do so, or at least that's what my mother believes. I don't think that I was selfish at all. In fact, I think it was pretty helpful because I booked her the flight tickets to go back home. Obviously now she has to figure out a way to pay the fine to Jared, but that's hardly my business anymore since she was the one who chose to hit him and visit him in spite of my warning. My mother is really pissed at me and constantly calling me and messaging me to remind me of the promise that I had made to my father and telling me that I'm not living up to it the way she had expected me to. So Aita for refusing to clean up the mess that my sister has made in spite of a promise that I had made to my father on his deathbed. Update 1. Hi. So it has been 3 days since my sister visited me and I turned her away. My mother had been trying to contact me for a while, but I decided to block her because it was really getting on my nerves. I don't owe it to anybody to help them. Yes, I had made a promise to my father, but honestly I have been manipulated and coerced into making that promise. It was not something that I really wanted to do. I think I had made that sufficiently clear, and even most of the comments said that it was really manipulative of my parents to contact me only when my father was on his deathbed, and even then it was pretty clear that they just wanted me to come visit them so they would have some shy that I would help Rebecca out later on after my father was gone. As he was going away, he still manipulated me into doing something for the golden child of the family. It's really unbelievable. They only ever cared about her and about me no matter what kind of relationship that we shared. He was still my dad and it hurt to watch him die, but I don't know how to feel about it anymore. I don't really miss him since I never had a good relationship with any of them and for the past 10 years I haven't been in touch with them, but I do feel kind of let down and disappointed. It was my mistake for believing that things could change between all of us or that my family could ever bring themselves to care about anything other than my sister. I guess not, that's never gonna happen anyway. I can care about a lot more things that have nothing to do with my sister, and that's what I'm going to do. I'm gonna focus on starting my own business now no matter what. Nobody's gonna stop me. I already lost focus once, and it was not good for me. I'm not going to let it happen again. Update 2. Hi, so Rebecca reached out to me today. I guess I had forgotten to block her. She sent me a text saying that she had managed to pay off the fine, and she did not need my help anymore. She also told me that my mother was really disappointed and she never wanted to see me again. I guess that's fine by me. I did not want to see them again either. They only wanted me for my money, not for who I was as a person, and they were never going to regret how they treated me all my life, and I knew that. So after reading that message, I did not even bother to reply and I just blocked her. I was done with this. Update 3. Hey. So it has been a couple of months and I just wanted to give you guys a little update on how my business venture is going. The business model is almost complete, and so far every investor that I have spoken to has expressed a lot of interest in my business. I think I'm going to quit my job and put in my resignation in a couple of days because I'm finally ready for the next chapter. I am once again no contact with my family, and things have never been better for me, honestly. I think going no contact with him once again was the best decision that I could have made, and this is going to be my new family now. Now on to the next story. Story 8. Wife suggested open relationship, buys new clothes, and leaves our son to please a fair partner she met at school. I strongly believe that my 33-year-old wife, 34-year-old F, of 7 years together, for 9 years, is cheating on me. I see dozens upon dozens of red flags, but still no indisputable evidence of an affair, which I'm set on acquiring. I'd prefer to find this myself rather than pry at her for the information, because I have now lost all trust for her. For some background, we have been going through a pretty rough patch in our marriage after I betrayed her with pornography a year and a half ago. My recovery has gone well, and I'm committed to healing with her, and she was previously motivated to heal, particularly for the sake of our son's well-being. A few months ago, I'd say we were on a great track, but something changed once she started law school in the fall. I think you see where this is going. So many sketchy things have happened since she began school that I really just have to list them out with bullet points. Here are some of the most concerning behaviors, i.e., things that have happened over the past 3 months. She broke her silicone wedding ring shortly into school but never replaced it, despite being a shopping addict. I upgraded her real wedding ring for our anniversary, said she loved it, but she doesn't wear that one either because it's too flashy and she doesn't want to hurt her friends' feelings. She recently went cosmic bowling with some of her friends late at night and went out of her way to take her MacBook along too. Stores texts. I confronted her on this, and she said it was already in her pack. It was 100% packed by her. On that same outing, she stayed overnight at a friend's house despite being able to Uber back to our place. I was watching our son who was sleeping, so couldn't pick her up. Her search history reveals that she looked up how to delete texts in Verizon account a few days following that outing. Search history also shows things like how to respond to how's your day going and other stupid crap like that. Why would you need to know how to do that unless you were nervous or trying to flatter someone? Her MacBook password has changed, and she usually keeps it close to her anyway. Was really concerned with me getting into our shared Verizon account. Her phone is always with her or right next to her, usually face down. I haven't had a chance to try to check it, but I'm certain she's changed the password there as well. Her Apple Watch goes everywhere with her as well, literally took it off the charger, into the crapper with her today to protect whatever is on there. She exhibits a lot of the typical behaviors such as distancing herself from me and son, always busy, buying new clothes, inners mainly buying new perfume and doing her makeup every day. She was never into makeup. We have sex maybe once a month at this point, which I usually have to beg for, and she complains about the last time we had sex was on Saturday, and she propositioned me with an open relationship during the middle of sex, where we could both have sexual and romantic relationships outside of our marriage. I declined shortly after it was proposed. I asked her where she would like to find another partner, and she said it would be easiest if the person went to her law school, so great chance she's been effing and romantically involved with someone over there. She took it a step further and told our friends we were considering it, which is embarrassing and just screams, "Hey, we clearly aren't doing well to them." I told her not to tell them. She did it anyway. She's been spending less and less time with our son. She is unrecognizable as the mother she used to be. She was perfect. Now when she might spend 15 quality minutes a day with him. Related to this, she said that if we get a divorce, I can have him 5 out of 7 days each week because she's too busy with school. This really broke my heart. It's one thing not to care about me, but a whole different level to remove your son from a top priority in your life. Her behavior just screams infidelity, but I'm not sure what to do next to really pin her down and prove it beyond a shadow of a doubt. Should I hire a private investigator? Any ideas for getting into one of her devices without her knowing? Really hard with two-step verification. I really want to catch her because I will never trust what she says, and I need this for closure before we divorce. I know I sound like I'm obsessed and crazy, and I am. I can't do anything lately other than trying to figure out what's going on. Thanks in advance for any help or advice you can offer. Update 1. My wife of 7 years had an emotional affair over the past few weeks, although I suspect more happened. I had to pry this out of her today after weeks of misery, compilation of indisputable evidence, and backing her into a corner demanding answers. Like most stories of infidelity, more information trickled out the more I pried at her. For now, though, let's assume that all she had was an emotional affair, since that's all I've been able to get her to admit to. My wife just betrayed me and I'm crushed, but the truth is, I betrayed her first, and I wonder if I'm responsible for her affair, which is exactly what she told me this morning. I struggled with a pornography addiction and took things as far as masturbating to pictures of one of her previous coworkers, which was disgusting and evil of me and absolutely crushed my wife. She found out about my addiction early on in our marriage, and I said it would stop, but did not, unsurprisingly. I continued to use and was discovered in the act again several years later, where things all but fell apart for us. Our marriage hung by a thread for the first 6 months or so, but slowly felt like it was becoming stable enough to have a reasonable chance at survival by about a year out from D-Day 2. I was seeing multiple therapists per month, leveraging accountability partners, listening to podcasts, and focusing on connections and relationships, namely my marriage. As time went on, I noticed my wife and I having more intimate moments, genuine I love yous, and positive interaction in general. She still had some bad days, but by and large, I felt security and some level of confidence that our relationship would return to a stable state if we held trajectory. Since things were looking better, we got back into building our lives together, starting with my wife's dream of attending law school. I fully supported her and quickly recognized this as an excellent opportunity to prove my value to her by being her support system for this trying endeavor. I did a terrible job of supporting her in the past. I made controlling decisions due to insecurities I had. I'm ashamed to say that, but it's the truth and needs to be stated for the sake of context. Because of these poor past behaviors, I really wanted to show my wife that I was all in on supporting her through law school, paying for her tuition, paying our regular bills, raising our special needs child almost exclusively, and offering her the support she needs to excel. In my mind, this would be an excellent opportunity for me to prove my worth and how I've grown as a husband, father, and a man. If you haven't already guessed it, my wife met someone through her law school, and this is where the emotional affair ended up occurring. In a way, it's incredibly ironic to me because I was always so afraid that she'd cheat on me if she attended a male-dominant program. I now fully realize how big of a controlling person I was back then, and I wasn't going to let any insecurities get in the way of our relationship this time. Honestly, I didn't have any, and I trusted her with my life. I truly believed my wife would remain loyal to me in the face of temptation, dedicated to healing and continuing to build our futures together. Couldn't have been more wrong. Not only did my wife have an emotional affair while I paid her tuition, provided all childcare, paid the other bills, and cheered her on, but she went out of her way to hide it from me at all costs. The level of deception, gaslighting, and absolutely evil secrecy she implemented to keep this a secret disgusts me to no end. I didn't know I'd ever see she texted him through her special needs nonprofit Google Voice number, then went to great lengths to delete those texts to hide them from me. Later, she lied about going to a girls' night when she was really going to a house party. She also deleted texts with any evidence of that night. She refused to wear her wedding ring all semester, and she even lied to the guy that we were currently separated. She grew incredibly distant from me and even my son, which absolutely crushed me. I feel like his perception of her has changed, and he doesn't seem nearly as attached to her as he used to be, which concerns me gravely. Effing me over is one thing, neglecting your child's emotional needs so you can have a fling with some scumbag lawyer is another. I found myself feeling empty most of today. I don't feel much of anything a good deal of the time. Then I have bouts of rage where I want to break everything in sight. I haven't felt a ton of sorrow yet, but I still don't think I've come to terms with the reality of the situation yet, because I'm busy keeping the wheels turning for our family. Meanwhile, she continues the grind at law school, and it's only a matter of time before those two meet again. I do not know what to do, how to feel, or how to proceed. This whole thing really leaves with this burning question. Is my wife's emotional affair my fault due to the betrayals with pornography and masturbation? I can't help but feel I contributed, but don't feel it's reasonable for me to take responsibility for her pulling the trigger. Furthermore, I feel that her betrayal is so much more personal, painful, and difficult to mitigate since it involves two real people developing real intimacy together. I would appreciate anyone's thoughts, hearing about similar personal experiences, and suggestions to help me get through the coming moments. I have a little boy that means the world to me and depends on me entirely, and I need to keep my crap together for him right now. I also still love my wife, and at the moment, I want to work through this with her because she did the same for me. I feel I owe her this. Thanks in advance. Update 2. She had met him at a law alumni attorney at a student mixer, which we were originally going to attend together. I stayed behind because I was tired from work and from caring for our autistic son. Somehow, in an alleged 10-minute conversation, she told this guy that our marriage was on the rocks and that we were separated. We weren't. They began texting for the next few weeks. She only admits to him telling her she was beautiful. I still don't have the guy's name. I don't have any text messages or message records. I have nothing but her word, which is completely worthless. She had already deleted all evidence of any conversation. All I know is she said she told him that we were going to work on our marriage so they couldn't speak anymore, and that he doesn't even live here. He's from out of state and just flew in for the mixer to pick up students. I feel like I already had a problem comparing myself to others before this, but this has really exacerbated things for me. From how she describes him, this guy is taller than me, and I'm 6 feet 3 inches. Was dressed like a pretentious metrosexual. I usually wear plain t-shirts and jeans, and as an indie intellectual property attorney from California. I have a high school diploma, but I've created a successful business where I'll net close to $200,000 in a low cost of living state this year. Chances are I make comparable money or even more than him, and I don't have $250K plus in student loan debt like most attorneys do. I have always felt like my wife wasn't proud of my career path and would have preferred I go down some basic cookie-cutter career path like she decided to do. No offense to anyone else. I'm clearly triggered here and don't mean to run anyone else down. I also found out that she'd been lying to me about where she had been a few times. On one occasion, she alleged to have been at a girls' bowling night but ended up going to schoolhouse party and staying the night with one of her girlfriends. For all I know, she was effing homeboy. She has also been giving either her real number or Google Voice number to a number of other guys in her class. Again, would probably be fine under normal circumstances. The other day, one of her male peers parked next to her in the garage because they both drive a new Ford Bronco. I bought a nice one from my wife last year because she really liked them. Anyway, the guy ended up texting her and initiating conversation about the trucks. She didn't text him back yet, but refuses to believe any of the male students have anything other than strictly platonic intentions. We've been trying to work through things for the past few weeks, and honestly, I felt like we were headed in the right direction until last night. I was working out in the garage when I opened the door to her truck to look for a USB cable for my phone. Instead, I find another man's wallet on the passenger side floorboard. I open the wallet, check the ID, and find that it's a male student that she attends school with. When I had calmed down, I went inside to begin strategically prompting her to figure out what was going on. She played dumb to all my cues and only admitted to having another man in the truck with her after I told her I found his wallet. She said that it had been raining, and she volunteered to give him a ride home after study time was over. She said she didn't think it was a big deal, so she didn't bother to ask me about it. Honestly, for a healthy trusting marriage, I don't think it is a big deal, but all trust had already been shattered weeks ago, and then she decides to give a male student a ride without my knowledge. I don't think anything else happened because the guy is literally smaller than my wife and quite nerdy looking, but I can't rule it out because she has proven that she cannot be trusted. If that's not enough, she also fessed up to doing this with another male student a few months back as well. We also live in a state where we can carry weapons in our vehicles. I allow her to keep one of our weapons in the truck for safety in the parking garage. It's very concerning to me that she would have strange men in the car when there's a loaded weapon inches away from them. What happens if she were to give a ride to some random guy that's a psychopath? He finds the weapon and he slaughters her with it. Also worth mentioning, she lost the weapon the other day and sent me into a panic trying to find it. Fortunately, we did find it pretty quickly under the floorboard, holstered and safe, but she clearly isn't responsible enough to carry it anymore. So those privileges are revoked among other things which are still to be decided. I really don't know where I go from here. The only reason I'm still working with her is because I betrayed her myself in the past, and I owe her the same opportunity for redemption. It's just crazy that she is already effed up again. I absolutely resent and hate the living hell out of her law school, her peers, and anything else related to it because it has either directly or indirectly caused so much turmoil in our marriage. I refuse to go to any law school-related events, meet any of her friends, or be involved in anything else other than attending her graduation. All I ever wanted was to support her through law school and have her appreciate me, not try to F other guys and lie to me about who she's with and what she's doing. I have financially supported my wife and our family almost exclusively for the past 5 years. I pay cash for her tuition each semester. I watch one of her law school friends' dog when she's out of town twice so far this semester. I am the primary caregiver for our autistic son. She might spend a few hours with him per week now. I work hard with my business to continue to provide for my family and support her shopping addiction. I've been in successful recovery from my own problematic contributions to the marriage. I've been emotionally supportive, loving, and available to her. I'm so hurt, absolutely livid, and tired of dealing with all of this. I think I know what most of you are going to say. I need to leave her. I think I would had she not stuck it out with me through my crap. I also want to keep our family unit together. At a minimum, she will face dire consequences for the ongoing deception, and the next large deception may be enough for me to go through with the divorce. Betrayal and deception are terrible things, and I'm deeply empathetic to anyone else there that is dealing with it, trying to get through the day-to-day. I hope things turn around for our marriage, but I lose hope each time something like this happens and feel I'm still in the dark as to what has really happened or is still going on now. Now on to the next story. Story 9. Found out wife's affair with coworker when I brought flowers on our 10th anniversary. My 35-year-old M, wife, 35-year-old F, and I were married 10 years ago yesterday. She has been working on a big project for the last few months. The last 4 weeks or so, she has been putting in extra time, staying late, going in early to finish up by deadline. This is a career maker for her. I work construction. With the rain we have crazy hours trying to make up time that we missed, so I work 12 hours on the days it's nice, sometimes a little longer if it's raining. When I get up, I don't go in. Some days we get sent home when it starts too dangerous. I usually hit the gym for an hour or two. Thursday, we started at 6 a.m. mid-morning. Starts to rain hard. We go home. I go to the gym as usual. I cut the workout short and head downtown to see wife Megan to give her flowers and make plans for dinner that night if possible. We really haven't seen much of each other this week. I went to bed about 9 p.m. She wasn't home, called me earlier. She is working late, not unusual for past month. I stopped and got some flowers and went into her building about 12:30. Nicole was at the receptionist desk. I told her I got here later than I wanted. Could she put the flowers on Megan's desk? She said, I don't think they went to lunch yet. Why not drop them off yourself? She buzzed the door to get back to the offices. The place was deserted. I went to her office, the door was closed. I always walk in unless the receptionist tells me she is in a meeting. I walk in. Some guy is standing behind her nuzzling her neck. She is reaching back over his head. She is giggling only as she can, saying, We got to get this done. I am gut punched. I slammed the flowers down, said, Happy anniversary, and walked out. I didn't hear what she said, just went past Nicole, said goodbye, and left. Made it to elevators and out the building. Then my phone started ringing. I bawled my eyes out all the way home, went into garage, pulled my camping gear out of the rafters, and took off. I drove about 2 hours to a state park. I had no idea what to do. I just had to run. I hiked a trail we have been on in the past, about a 3-hour hike. I don't drink much, so I had no booze. I just sat there thinking. Looking back, I'm glad I was in a rush. Normally I bring a .45 caliber with me camping. We have black bears which generally scare off but get aggressive if hungry or cubs around. The way I was feeling, I might have ate the barrel that night. My phone was blowing up from Megan, so I had turned it off. I left the park to get reception, turned it on to see my good friend called. I called him back. He said Megan called him to check on me, make sure I didn't do anything stupid. We talked a bit, told him I got to think this through, would catch up on Friday. So while I'm thinking about this, I go over our marriage from the beginning to see what I missed. We come from completely opposite backgrounds. My grandfather raised me with my mom. He taught me about life. He had a little saying about everything. He told me marriage would be the hardest job he ever had. You had to work on it every day. God, I miss him. We did not have much. Heard Mom and Grandpa having many discussions about bills. They worked hard, and my brother and I did not miss out on anything. We knew of Megan was born into money, not overly rich but very comfortable. Went to a great college, always great clothes, new car, etc. And she is beautiful, 11 out of 10 beautiful. I would joke with her if she coughed about the silver spoon getting stuck in her throat. We met, hit it off, started dating. I was dumbfounded how such a woman would ever be with me. We dated quite a while before she told me about her parents and lifestyle. Our friends called us the model couple because they thought we were so good-looking we had to be models. Families were not as kind, afraid of the differences economically would come into play. Her dad and I started to get along, but her mom took some convincing. She graduates, gets her first job, we plan on getting married. We work out between us that we would expose each other to our lives that we live. I took her whitewater rafting. She took me to the symphony. We went ziplining, we went to an art opening, etc. We agreed we had to experience the other's interests. She was really enthused about the more physical things we did. I kind of liked the symphony and such. I own 2 tuxes now. I look back and do not see any red flags. Her first 2 jobs she quit because the men all tried to get in her pants. She was paraded out in front for photo operations, invited to conferences when other newbies were not, at dinner at a conference. A partner tried to get her drunk, then tried to force himself into her room that night. She quit. The next job, the same thing, quit again. This 3rd job has women as some of the partners, and none of that BS is in her workplace. She seems very happy. We seemed very happy. So now Friday I am home. I called her, asked where she was. Back at work. I, being in a smart-ass mood, said that the marriage is taking second place to her job. She responded, since I would not talk, what was she to do? Fair enough. She will be home in an hour, so I wait. I want to save our marriage. If I am lacking in providing, then I want to fix it. I want to ask why, of course, but I cannot accept, I don't know, answer. How do I phrase this? What else should I be asking? I know I will get all emotional and forget everything, so over the next few days we will be going over and over this. What she did is wrong, but please no degrading comments. She is still my wife. Thank you in advance. Update. I am exhausted. Sorry for the bad form that is about to happen. Wife and I had a marathon talking session on Friday into late night. I started by asking that she be honest in all answers and be complete. Do not tell me half-truths that have to be asked several different ways to get a complete answer. She agreed. I started with why. Answer, I don't know. Kind of what was expected. We went round and round on this. Finally, I said, how many times did you have sex? Started to dodge. But when I let out a sigh and shook my head, she said, 6 or 7 times. That started things rolling. Kept my cool. How long? Last 3 weeks. Back to why. Could not give an answer. Do you still love me? Yes. Saying it because we are done trying to save marriage? No. With some conviction. Do you find me attractive? Yes. Why still can't answer? Am I not giving you something you are looking for? Here she hesitated, but quickly recovered. I knew I was on to something. Could not crack the nut though. Finally, about midnight, I was tired, she was tired. I said, Megan, you are an intelligent woman. I cannot believe you cannot articulate the why I'm asking about. She started crying, saying she is trying to answer my questions. I said, okay, enough for tonight, time for bed. She starts to walk toward the door. I asked, where were you going? To my parents' house. I told her that this is our house. I am not asking you to leave. She stopped crying at that point. I said, we are not divorced or separated, that may come. But for now we need to be together until we sort this out. We actually slept in the same bed, not sex in case you are going to ask. I am up almost most of the night. I am reading some of the comments and DMs, had some great comments and back and forth with a few people. One told me that women generally marry up in social status. We were unusual, maybe second thoughts. One suggested that maybe I was right, that I was not fulfilling something for her. But one told me that there was a post a few days ago describing this scenario but from the women's view, asking what she should do. So I pulled up Reddit, put in Megan's account, looked at her history, bingo, she was the one who posted. So this morning we start again. I start out, why? Same answer. We go round and round. She getting annoyed. Then I say, did this guy challenge you intellectually? The look on her face was priceless. You read my post for the masses. She described how she caught the feeling when they first kissed, make-out session in hotel. She left next morning after I left for work. She hightailed it over to hotel to put an end to it, then had sex. It continued at least up to her posting. I am sure a couple days later I discover them. She also was weighing on whether to leave, then says this is moving way too fast, she needs to separate from this hurt, that she and thinks I am a dumb hick, no guy. So I present this to her. She was attracted to him because this project they are on is his idea. She feels she is getting passed by and needs to up her game. The stimulation from this led to the attraction and the rest. Now I don't know, I know her. She was sincere. Now the floodgates open, we have a great dialogue through the issue. Mid-afternoon. She wants a break. She leaves to her parents. So I am writing this update. Knock on the door. Okay. Got to say I really tired now. There stands Megan's mom. I tell her Megan is on the way to their house. She knows she wants to talk to me. She has never been to our house by herself. She has never that I remember talked to me privately. She says she is not here to sway me in any way. She would accept any decision I make. But she wants to tell me her story. She was married once before Megan's dad. I knew that. The man she married was the love of her life. Didn't have much. She met now husband. They caught some feelings before they cheated. She told first husband they were done, divorced, married new guy. He had some money, but was an up-and-coming exec. Couple years go by, not happy, made a mistake, old husband moved on, is married. She gets pregnant, has Megan, goes into depression, was actually institutionalized. 2 years later, pregnant with brother, repeat cycle. Couple years later, sister is born, repeat. No more kids, she is fixed. Everyone thought it was postpartum depression, I guess it was, but it mirrored her ex also expanding his family. To this day, she knows where he lives, his kids' names, etc. She has never gotten over leaving the love of her life. She sees how I am with Megan. She sees she is my love. She saw it when she quit her first job, how I took care of her. She got up and left, saying nothing else. This is really long, I know. Couple things to clean up. Much talk about Megan's first 2 jobs. None of you were there when she got off that plane and collapsed into my arms. We weren't married yet. Harassment is real. Reported to who? The guy owned the company. She did right and quit. The second job was more of the same. She left as soon as she felt uncomfortable, so EFF you to all those bad-mouthing her actions. Next up, I asked for civility in treating Megan. There were some that just showed their crap and spoke out anyway. I asked for advice but put down called names some. Someone said the kind Reddit community has offered great advice. I call BS. They for the most part offered insults, bad language, very little insight. Thank you to the kind people who DM'd. You were the best. Those that shared their stories. I appreciate you and hope your journey from here is a smooth one. Want to know about Nicole? Nope. Want to know to what the future holds? Nope. Also, her post will be removed. We have reached the end. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to like and subscribe to the channel for more videos like this, and give us your thoughts about the stories in the comments section. Thank you and see you in the next video.